Hey everybody, it's Carl. Welcome to Carl's Opinion tonight. Camera seems kind of high. Hold on a sec. It seems a little bit better. Hey, like hiding behind the sign, Carl's Opinion. But hey, you got a lot of news to get to tonight, and you saw the headline there. Thanks, Dems, for putting Putin in bed with China. And I had that one story I was covering up there. Russia-China Air Patrol draws fire from South Korean jets. I think this actually was a story from last night. And yeah, just thanks a lot, guys. I mean, Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump could have had a really great relationship. I mean, they're both the same kind of guy. They're both megalomaniacs. They're both a little bit crazy, and they both love their countries. I mean, they're both nationalists, extreme nationalists, and they could have got along really well. But they were so afraid to show any kind of kindness towards each other or to show any kind of reaching out. I mean, every time Trump had a phone call with Putin or he looked at him at a G20 meeting or something, like he smiled at him like, "Oh, look, see, there it is, the Trump Russian collusion right there, see." Or they do a handshake and it's like, "Oh, the secret handshake," or when he gave him a gift or something, like, "Oh, there must be a secret message in there." So they could never actually get together and actually, try to, talk to one another and, have any kind of meaningful, relationship, which is important because, we got nuclear bombs pointing at each other. Might have been kind of good for that. But no, we had to go through this nonsense for the last 2.5, 3 years, and today there's the Putin. I mean, sorry, with the Putin, with the Mueller testimony today, it just went downhill fast for Mueller. Everybody thought he was this really smart and in charge kind of guy, and it looks like he's suffering from the look at the Joe Biden disease. It looks like he's suffering from the early onsets of Alzheimer's or early or dementia or something. So obviously he wasn't running the investigation. I mean, he could barely run his own testimony today. I've seen him testify before in front of Congress, on prior clips. And even though he's not a big, made for TV kind of guy as far as like his personality, he always had control of his faculties, and he was like kind of like really unsure of himself, like well, and you could tell he wasn't all there. And the sad part is, I was telling this to a friend of mine. I bet like his wife or his kids, probably called over to Nadler and Schiff and said, "Look, please don't make him testify. He's a patriot. He's American. He's not going to disobey a subpoena. He's probably not going to fight you in court because it'd probably be too much money for him anyway. He's a civil servant, doesn't have tons of cash. So, don't make him go through this because he's not well. And, we'd like everybody to remember him as he was." And of course, Nadler and Schiff didn't give a shit. They just wanted they needed a video image and then him just to say the words out loud that were in his report. Well, he really couldn't do that very well, even if he wanted to, just because you saw how when he didn't have a prepared speech in front of him, he really didn't do very well at all in response to a lot of different questions. I have a couple of clips here from those proceedings, and so we'll kind of jump over to that right now. Let's just see, make sure I got this set up right. Let's see here. Okay. From those proceedings, and so we'll kind of all right. So let's see. All right, so let's go ahead and show the first clip here. And this is going to be from Chris Wallace. And if you don't know Chris Wallace, Chris is a never Trumper, hates Donald Trump to death, does not like him at all. And for him to say what he says here, on Fox was pretty extraordinary. So let's take a look.
You know, I had to laugh a little bit when you talked about the testimony by Robert Mueller, because I think testimony has to be put in quotes. It really hasn't been much testimony. Frankly, I think you've both been very kind. I think this has been a disaster for the Democrats, and I think it's been a disaster for the reputation of Robert Mueller. He has seemed very uncertain with his brief. He doesn't seem to know what things that are in the report. He's been attacked a number of times, and you would think that almost anybody else would have defended his own integrity and the integrity of the investigation, and over Mueller just sits silent and allows the attacks from the Republicans to sweep over him and says nothing. I think it does raise questions about the degree to which he actually was in charge of and control of this report, because he doesn't seem very much in control or charge of what the final report was. I should say whether he was in charge of the investigation, because he doesn't seem in charge of what the report actually says. The two strongest parts, I think, were the opening questions by the chairman, Jerry Nadler, who basically said, you know, the president says he was exonerated. Was he? No.
And you see there Chris Wallace, and again, Chris Wallace is no friend of Donald Trump's. I mean, he regularly, you know, he kind of does like a Ben Shapiro on Donald Trump a lot. Doesn't really say a lot of nice things from him. And the next clip we're gonna see here is from Congressman Radcliffe, and he's the one who said pretty much, he goes into like, hey, you know, what's the burden of proof, and you know, should someone have to prove himself innocent? So let's jump on that story here. Let's check this one out. And here we go.
Now, your report, and today you said at all times the special counsel team operated under, was guided by, and followed Justice Department policies and principles. So which DOJ policy or principle sets forth a legal standard that an investigated person is not exonerated if their innocence from criminal conduct is not conclusively determined?
Can you repeat the last part of that question?
Yeah. Which DOJ policy or principle set forth a legal standard that an investigated person is not exonerated if their innocence from criminal conduct is not conclusively determined? Where does that language come from, Director? Where is the DOJ policy that says that? Can you, let me make it easier.
Sorry, go ahead.
Can you give me an example other than Donald Trump where the Justice Department determined that an investigated person was not exonerated because their innocence was not conclusively determined?
I cannot, but this is a unique situation.
Well, you can't. Time is short. I've got 5 minutes. Let's just leave it at you can't find it, because I'll tell you why. It doesn't exist. The special counsel's job, nowhere does it say that you were to conclusively determine Donald Trump's innocence, or that the special counsel report should determine whether or not to exonerate him. It's not in any of the documents. It's not in your appointment order. It's not in the special counsel regulations. It's not in the OLC opinions. It's not in the Justice Manual, and it's not in the principles of federal prosecution. Nowhere do those words appear together, because respectfully, Director, it was not the special counsel's job to conclusively determine Donald Trump's innocence or to exonerate him, because the bedrock principle of our justice system is a presumption of innocence. It exists for everyone. Everyone is entitled to it, including sitting presidents. And because there is a presumption of innocence, prosecutors never, ever need to conclusively determine it. Now, Director, the special counsel applied this inverted burden of proof that I can't find, and you said doesn't exist anywhere in the department policies, and you used it to write a report. And the very first line of your report, says, and as you read this morning, it authorizes the special counsel to provide the Attorney General with a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions reached by the special counsel. That's the very first word of your report, right?
That's correct.
Here's the problem, Director. The special counsel didn't do that. On volume 1, you did. On volume 2, with respect to potential obstruction of justice, the special counsel made neither a prosecution decision or a declination decision. You made no decision. You told us this morning and in your report that you made no determination. So respectfully, Director, you didn't follow the special counsel regulations. It clearly says write a confidential report about decisions reached. Nowhere in here does it say, write a report about decisions that weren't reached. You wrote 180 pages. 180 pages about decisions that weren't reached, about potential crimes that weren't charged or decided. And respectfully, by doing that, you managed to violate every principle and the most sacred of traditions about prosecutors not offering extra prosecutorial analysis about potential crimes that aren't charged. So Americans need to know this as they listen to the Democrats and socialists on the other side of the aisle, as they do dramatic readings from this report, that volume 2 of this report was not authorized under the law to be written. It was written to a legal standard that does not exist at the Justice Department. And it was written in violation of every DOJ principle about extra prosecutorial commentary. I agree with the chairman this morning when he said Donald Trump is not above the law. He's not. But he damn sure shouldn't be below the law, which is where volume 2 of this report puts him.
And you see there, there's a good picture of Mueller's face right there. We're getting ready to go into Jim Jordan's questioning of him. And, in other words, he has, President Trump, just like every other American, has a presumption of innocence. Yeah, can you repeat the question? I know, really. Hey, Karen, how you doing down there? See you, Karen. Good seeing you. Yeah, Karen. Yeah, I think dementia, something. He's got some major issues going on there, and maybe when he got appointed this, 2 years ago, well, about 2.5 years ago now, maybe he wasn't suffering from the ailments, and then maybe he picked it up in the middle of it. And, maybe it was hard for him to admit to anybody, himself or anybody else, that he had a problem. Maybe he was diagnosed, but he kept it under wraps. And, and that goes back to the question of, well, who was running the investigation? The people that ended up coming to work for him, 17 attorneys, I think 13 of them had donated to Hillary Clinton's campaign, were never Trumpers, hated Trump. And, a prosecutor has a lot of high standards. You don't want somebody who just hates the accused. You want somebody who's going to, because a prosecutor's role is not to seek a conviction. A prosecutor's role is to seek justice in a fair trial. That's his role, is to seek justice, not convictions. So if you got, 17 guys who totally are deluded as to what their role as prosecutors are, namely to seek a conviction, and when that report gets written, and there is a, on the obstruction thing, and I went into this pretty good detail back in, I think it was April when the report came out, the decision, like on obstruction, whether or not the president can commit obstruction by exercising his Article 2 power, to wit, Article 2 power meaning, as commander-in-chief. Now, the little blur on that line is, if it's specifically spelled out in Article 2, then no, it cannot be obstruction. It gets gray when the power is not specifically spelled out, like be able to hire and fire members of the executive branch. It doesn't say that exactly in Article 2, but case law is, and Alan Dershowitz wrote a good intro on this to the Mueller report. It's available on Amazon. Yay! I say Amazon, I get extra, every time I say Amazon, I get extra, two percentage points off my bill. So anyway, Amazon, I was to say it all night long. Jeff Bezos, I get 5% when I say his name. But anyway, hey, Forbidden, how you doing down there? Good seeing you. But yeah, so basically, since it's not spelled out in Article 2 of the Constitution, the president can hire and fire the, members of the executive branch. Then you go to the case law that's interpreted that as commander-in-chief and that as head of the executive department, as head of it, like the boss, if you will, that, it's implied in Article 2 that he can. And the case law is pretty good on that. It comes down pretty hard on the side that, so if he's exercising his Article 2 power under the Constitution, it can't be obstruction of justice for firing James Comey. And that's where a lot of this came from. Now, another thing that's important to know, this whole obstruction thing, I'll tell you why it's bullshit. They say, well, it wasn't for McGahn, he would have done this, that, and the other. Well, he didn't do any of it, okay? So he never did anything. Mueller was allowed to finish his investigation. In fact, according to Mueller's own quote, when he was asked, he was allowed to complete and conclude his investigation unhindered. Unhindered. He received no hindrances from anybody. So he was able to, 40 FBI agents, 17 attorneys, 500 warrants, wiretaps, 2,800 document requests, all kinds of international agreements and testimony. I forget how many witnesses. I think it was another 500 witnesses were interviewed. He ran the full gambit. And it sounds like if he was like this during this investigation, now I know why they were hiding him so much, why he never came out. I thought he was just being really cool and not coming out and giving a press conference every 5 minutes. And then when he gave that press conference in May, obviously that was a prepared speech, and one of the questions he did get asked was, who wrote that 9-minute speech you gave on that press conference? Who wrote that for you? And then instead of Mueller saying, well, I wrote it myself, or, he goes, well, I'm not going to answer that. Well, if he wrote it himself, the answer would have been, I wrote it. But obviously he didn't. He didn't even write that. So obviously Weissman and those guys behind the scenes who hate Trump, I think Weissman went to Hillary's, under the glass ceiling, thing, celebration, defeat party at the Javits Center on election night. So if those guys were running the investigation, they weren't acting as, they weren't seeking justice, potentially at the end of the day in a fair trial. They were seeking a conviction, seeking to hang Donald Trump. And one of the congressmen made a good point. Look, if you know you're innocent, and I brought this up a couple of times actually. If you know you're innocent, and the guys who are going after you know you're innocent, but they're going after you anyway, then yeah, you want to get rid of those guys. You're gonna be a little pissed off because Trump knew that they knew he didn't do anything, and Trump knew they knew that Trump knew they knew he didn't do anything. So it's even worse, So anyway, this is Jim Jordan. He kind of goes into it pretty good on this whole Mifsud thing. And I covered the whole Mifsud issue back on June 18th, and I have a video on that. We'll play some of that a little bit later. I went ahead and recorded my June 18th YouTube video where we discussed Mifsud and Brennan and Clapper and the Italian intelligence, and we went into pretty good detail with Downer, Australian intelligence, and how the Italian prime minister, after he found out that Mifsud was an Italian agent, not a Russian agent, and Mueller's in his report says he had ties. And I brought this up last night that Mueller had Mifsud had ties to Russia and contacts in Russia. Well, yeah, he's a spy. All spies in the West have ties and contacts in Russia. That's what spying is. That's what you do. You develop relationships with your adversary or assets. You're trying to develop assets. But Mifsud taught at a spy school in Italy, training our agents, and Brennan and him were good friends going back, decades. So, and so the whole point of what Barr's doing is they're trying to find out, okay, if Mifsud's meeting with Papadopoulos in April and the FBI counterintel investigation isn't open until July 31st, who started this counterintelligence, plot back in April? And why did Christopher Steele meet with the FBI on February 3rd, one day after the Iowa caucus, where Donald Trump came in second place when he wasn't supposed to do anything of any note? He came in second. Okay, so and was Mifsud working on his own? Did he decide, hey, I'm just going to go tell this guy that some guy Papadopoulos had just gotten hired by the Trump campaign too, and they were all over him. You had first one was Mifsud talking to Papadopoulos, and Alexander Downer with Australian intelligence, and then you had Stefan Halper also meeting with him, I think in August or September. They were just running the tables on him. And then it turns out Alexander Downer, his claim to fame was he actually signed the contract with Bill Clinton for the Clinton Foundation back in 2006. He got his country to give the most money ever to any private foundation or charity, to it $25 million. To the Clinton Foundation in 2006, and Alexander Downer's signature is on that document. So, his ties with Clinton go way back, and you wonder, gee, why would he push to give the Clinton Foundation $25 million? What was in it for Downer? What's been in it for Downer ever since? Is Downer Australian intelligence? Mifsud's Italian intelligence. We know Halper was British intelligence. What's going on in American intelligence? That's why the British didn't want those documents declassified either. So, all right, let's take a look. This is Jim Jordan. Does a really good job on Grandpa Mueller here. And again, some people are saying like they felt sorry for him and stuff. I didn't feel sorry for this guy at all, because he knew in the summer, at the latest, summer of 2018, that's 3 or 4 months, July, so August, September, October, November, 4 months before the midterm elections, he knew there was no conspiracy between the Trump campaign, Donald Trump, or his family, with the Russians. Why do we know for sure? Now, some people say he knew as early as December of 2017, but okay, that's speculation. We can say, look at something tangible. July of 2018, that's when Mueller filed that indictment against the 13 Russians, right? And he files that, naming them as, the troll farm and all this stuff, and working with the Russian government to, put out the Facebook ads and the hack the DNC and all that stuff. Nowhere in that indictment, which is very detailed and well spelled out, did he mention that there were any Americans listed in that indictment as conspiring with them. None, nowhere. So he knew. I mean, he was holding off on filing the indictment against the Russians because he was hoping beyond hope that he'd find somebody, an American, to hook in with that. But there were no unnamed co-conspirators. There were no Americans named as American John Doe 1, American John Doe 3, none of that. And there were no Trump officials or Trump campaign officials named as co-conspirators in July of 2018. He did not end the investigation into the conspiracy/collusion charge at that time. Why? Because he wanted to stretch it through the midterm elections. Because he knew it would hurt the Republicans in the midterms, and Democrats would probably retake the House. Retake the House and possibly the Senate. That's why. So I don't feel sorry for the guy. Okay? He put this nation through hell. Okay, and a lot of people say he knew, like I said, back in December of 2017, everybody knew there was no conspiracy between Trump and the Russians. No collusion, period. Okay, and he held on to that. He stretched it out. He's typical, partisan civil servant, no better than Strzok or Comey or any of those guys. I mean, he wouldn't even admit at first that he was good friends with James Comey. I mean, what a joke. Comey wrote in his book that, I knew Mueller so well, he's the kind of guy that would walk, would get in front of a train for me on the train tracks. I mean, obviously they're close friends. They worked with each other for decades. He wouldn't even admit to that at first. I mean, he's just lying. When he's not dementia, he's lying. And he held on to this information through the midterms so the Republicans would do far worse because they had that big, anvil on our shoulders about the Trump-Russia conspiracy. And now if he came out and said, hey, no Trump-Russia collusion in July, that would have changed. Let me tell you something. It would have been a much bigger, different, better outcome of those midterms for the Republicans, for us. So, screw him. I don't give a shit if he's got dementia. I really don't care. And if he knew he had it, he should have got the hell off the case. But no, he liked his paycheck, he liked his entourage, he liked the attention, and he's a dick. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't care if he's got dementia or not. I really don't care. And his family knew. His family should have told somebody. His family should have gone to Rosenstein and said, look, man, he's not well. You got to pull him out. Okay, Rosenstein could have said, and had the wife right in the background, said, look, she told me he's not well, and that's why he's leaving. We're not firing him. We're not trying to obstruct anything. Talk to his wife, okay, and just send his wife over to Capitol Hill, and she talked to everybody with the doctors, diagnosis. But he didn't do that. Nope. So screw him. Screw Mueller, period. Anyway, let's take a look at Jim Jordan here.
Director, the FBI interviewed Joseph Mifsud on February 10th, 2017. In that interview, Mr. Mifsud lied. You point this out on page 193, volume 1. Mifsud denied. Mifsud also falsely stated. In addition, Mifsud omitted. 3 times he lied to the FBI, yet you didn't charge him with the crime.
Excuse me, did you say one? I'm sorry, did you say 193?
Volume 1, 193. He lied 3 times. You pointed out in the report. Why didn't you charge him with the crime?
I can't get into internal deliberations with regard who would or would not be.
Charge a lot of other people for making false statements. Let's remember this. In 2016, the FBI did something they probably haven't done before. They spied on 2 American citizens associated with a presidential campaign, George Papadopoulos and Carter Page. With Carter Page, they went to the FISA court. They used the now famous dossier as part of the reason they were able to get the warrant and spy on Carter Page for a better part of a year. With Mr. Papadopoulos, they didn't go to the court. They used human sources. All kinds of, from about the moment Papadopoulos joins the Trump campaign, you got all these people all around the world starting to swirl around him. Names like Halper, Downer, Mifsud, Thompson, meeting in Rome, London, all kinds of places. The FBI even sent a lady posing as somebody else, went by the name Azra Turk, even dispatched her to London to spy on Mr. Papadopoulos. In one of these meetings, Mr. Papadopoulos is talking to a foreign diplomat, and he tells the diplomat, Russians have dirt on Clinton. That diplomat then contacts the FBI, and the FBI opens an investigation based on that fact. You point this out on page 1 of the report. July 31st, 2016, they open the investigation based on that piece of information. Diplomat tells Papadopoulos, Papadopoulos tells a diplomat, Russians have dirt on Clinton. Diplomat tells the FBI. What I'm wondering is, who told Papadopoulos? How'd he find out?
I can't get into the evidentiary filing.
Yes, you can, because you wrote about it. You gave us the answer. Page 192 of the report, you tell us who told him. Joseph Mifsud. Joseph Mifsud's the guy who told Papadopoulos. The mysterious professor who lives in Rome and London, teaches in 2 different universities. This is the guy who told Papadopoulos. He's the guy who starts it all. And when the FBI interviews him, he lies 3 times, and yet you don't charge him with a crime. You charge Rick Gates for false statements. You charge Paul Manafort for false statements. You charge Michael Cohen with false statements. You charge Michael Flynn, a 3-star general, with false statements. But the guy who puts the country through this whole saga, starts it all for 3 years we've lived this now, he lies, and you guys don't charge him. And I'm curious as to why.
Well, I can't get into it, and it's obvious, I think, that we can't get into charging decisions.
When the FBI interviewed him in February, FBI interviews him in February, when the special counsel's office interviewed Mifsud, did he lie to you guys too?
Can't get into that.
Did you interview Mifsud?
Can't get into that.
Is Mifsud Western intelligence or Russian intelligence?
Can't get into that.
A lot of things you can't get into. What's interesting, you can charge 13 Russians no one's ever heard of, no one's ever seen, no one's ever going to hear of them, no one's ever going to see them. You can charge them. You can charge all kinds of people who are around the president with false statements. But the guy who launches the guy who puts this whole story in motion, you can't charge him. I think that's amazing.
I'm not certain I agree with your characterizations.
Well, I'm reading from your report. Mifsud told Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos tells the diplomat tells the FBI opens the investigation July 31st, 2016, and here we are 3 years later, July of 2019, the country's been put through this, and the central figure who launches it all lies to us, and you guys don't hunt him down and interview him again, and you don't charge him with a crime. Now, here's the good news. Here's the good news. The president was falsely accused of conspiracy. The FBI does a 10-month investigation, and James Comey, when we deposed him a year ago, told us at that point they had nothing. You do a 22-month investigation. At the end of that 22 months, you find no conspiracy. And what's the Democrats want to do? They want to keep investigating. They want to keep going. Maybe a better course of action is to figure out how the false accusation started. Maybe it's to go back and actually figure out why Joseph Mifsud was lying to the FBI. And here's the good news. Here's the good news. That's exactly what Bill Barr's doing. And thank goodness for that. That's exactly what the Attorney General and John Durham are doing. They're going to find out why we went through this three-year saga and get to the bottom of it.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
And you see Mr. Jordan there doing an excellent job. Mr. Jordan, a former prosecutor, an attorney, a trial attorney, like yours truly, a trial attorney. In fact, I think I might be even the best attorney. Let me show you something real quick. This is kind of funny. I'll punch this up real fast here. So, where are we? All right, let me show you. Let me show you something here. What did I do with it? What did I do with it? Oh, there it is. Hold on. So let me put this in front of the camera. Let's see. You see it? This is from Donald Trump. Donald Trump got me this. And it says, let me get it closer. Let me back up. There we go. Let it focus. It's going to focus for a second. You're the best lawyer. I know lawyers, and you're great. Just terrific. Wait, I'll do Donald Trump. You're the best lawyer. No, I can't do a good Trump. Anyway, you're the best lawyer. I know lawyers, and you're great. Just terrific. Really special. All of the lawyers are disasters. Believe me, everyone agrees. Hey, Donald Trump. There you go. See, Donald Trump said so. But speaking of lawyers, got another one I'm going to show you right here, and it's Alan Dershowitz, and he comes out and says he doesn't think that Mueller even wrote the report. So he's like, yeah, and a lot of people today were saying, and even people who've known Mueller for a long time were saying it's not the same. In fact, I wrote down some of the quotes. Let's see. A lot of people were saying not the Bob Mueller I knew. One guy was saying, I worked with him, 5, 10 years ago, not the same guy. I worked with him 15 years ago, not the same guy. Axelrod tweeted out, pretty sad, pretty sad, real sad, that kind of thing. A lot of people have known Bob Mueller, and it's a shame that, I was thinking like his wife or his kids probably called Nadler and Schiff and begged him not to, make him testify, and they said, screw you, he's going to go up there and testify. And then, his whole career, brought down, to his last thing we remembered for would be his testimony today. But then again, like I said, I don't feel sorry for the guy. Okay, he screwed this country over for 2.5 years because he's a civil servant, wanted a job, wanted a paycheck, whatever. And he, and he was in bed with Comey and all. Those are all his friends he's trying to protect. That's why he didn't go and interview Mifsud. Guess who else he didn't interview? Julian Assange. The whole WikiLeaks thing, didn't interview him. Claims he didn't know anything about, Fusion GPS. Really? You didn't know, or Glenn Simpson didn't know anything about Fusion GPS or Glenn Simpson or how Steele put together his dossier, who paid for him. The Steele dossier which was one of the bases which was the basis for the FISA court application. The FBI said that the Downer statement was the basis to start the counterintel investigation, but everybody admits that without the Steele dossier, they could have never got the FISA court warrant. On Carter Page, which hooked him into the rest of the campaign, which they were already hooking into through FISA 702s without the warrant. The warrant was just a cover for all the information they had gathered earlier through the FISA 702s. So by going to Carter Page, even by getting it in October, they could still say, oh, this is where we got the information going back, 2 years. Because you can go back 2 years with that warrant. You can go like 4 levels, 5 levels, however many levels. We don't even know how many levels they went. And, Page talks to 20 people. Each of those 20 talk to 20. Each of those 20 talk to 20. Okay, eventually end up with, the campaign. Well, they were already spying on the campaign at that point. And Admiral, I think his name was Rogers, actually told Trump right after the transition, said, hey, man, because he found out about the illegal wiretaps, brought it to the FISA court judge, and the FISA court judge determined there were 40,000 requests, 5,000 warrants issued, and 85% of those were illegal, going back to 2012. That's when, 2012, what was going on then? Oh, Mitt Romney was running against Barack Obama. Sounds interesting. And, yeah, really interesting, don't you think? I think so. So, they've been doing this for a while. Barack Obama was approving it. That's going to come out. I did a pretty thorough piece on that back on June 18th. I might show a little bit of it here, but if you want, you can go back, go to June 18th on my library, my videos. I don't have any playlists, so just, go to my site, and YouTube site, and just pull up June 18th. You'll see there's one video that day, and it lists out Italy, Brennan, conspiracy, Mifsud, stuff like that. It goes into really good detail. It's about a 2-hour-long video, going into really good detail on it. Just all the different players, who they are, where they came from, all that kind of stuff. So, again, like I said, I don't feel sorry for Bob Mueller. Either he knew he was sick, or he didn't care, or he doesn't know, and he held this thing. Either he was, when he wasn't suffering from dementia today, he was just straight out lying. Okay, and again, he held this report. He held the conspiracy when he knew in July, when he filed that indictment, not listing anybody from Trump campaign in it. July of 2018, he had been on the job for like 1 year and 3 months. He didn't find it then, and I doubt he found anything after that, or he thought he would, but he didn't. So he knew in July, 4 months before the midterm elections, that there was no conspiracy or collusion, and he held on to that information. If we had done a press conference at that point, the 2018 midterms would have been far different. Hugely different. And all the talk of impeachment would have gone out the window back then, a year ago. But no, we had to go through a whole nother year of this shit because he wanted the Democrats to win the House because he hates Trump also. So I don't feel sorry for him. I don't care. I don't care what happens to him. I don't care. I really don't. I just don't. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the next. There's Alan Dershowitz. It's also on Fox News, and again, these are all Fox News clips, Fox Business News clips. So I give Fox some credit for that. Hold on.
Sad day for Robert Mueller, who's had a very distinguished career, and I knew him when he was in the height of his career. This showed him as somebody who was really not in charge. It showed him as somebody who was not particularly familiar with the contents of the report. He used every possible excuse either not to answer or to just refer to the report. And he didn't do it because he was instructed by the Justice Department. He did it because he seemed confused by the questions, that he seemed incapable of giving coherent answers to complex questions. For me, the bottom line is we should no longer call this the Mueller report. This now deserves to have the title, the staff report. It's very clear that Mueller didn't write this report. It's very clear that this is a product of staff members and that the usual role of a special counsel, as for example in the Starr Council, is really to go over every word and to make sure everything is his product. There's every reason to doubt that that happened in the instance of the Mueller report. And so I'm very concerned about who really was in charge of the Mueller investigation and the Mueller report. It does not seem like Robert Mueller played that crucial and important role.
And if you look further into this, we are told that many people on the Mueller team, the staff who wrote the report, were vigorous anti-Trumpers. Some of them were never Trumpers. I don't know whether that's accurate or not, but if you're suggesting that Mueller didn't actually write much of the report, it was the staff that did it, you have to look at the staff's motivation, right?
Absolutely. It becomes more and more essential, and I hope some of the questioning later on will deal with that, about how the staff was selected. I know several members of the staff. I've dealt with them when they were lawyers in government practice. And the question is, why did he select so many people who seem to have an animus against the president? And his answer is going to be, we don't have a political test. It's just a coincidence that so many of them turned out to be very, very active in efforts to prevent Trump from being elected president. But when you have a weak head of the commission, like Robert Mueller apparently was, it's so much more important to have a fair, balanced, equal staff, and I just don't think we had that. I think the other headline is that Mueller, despite his statement that he would not go beyond the report, did go beyond the report.
So we had
All right, we got President Trump getting ready to get queued up here. Oh, and by the way, President Trump didn't give me that coffee mug. One of my secretaries gave it to me for my birthday, just to let you know. But anyway, it was really nice for her to get me that, I thought. So that was really cool. But yeah, it was, President. She knows I'm a big Trump fan, so it's kind of cool. But yeah, we got President Trump here, and this is, he's kind of taking a little victory lap here. And Solex was saying something early, like when he calls the press fake news. At the end of this clip, you see him. I think I covered at least two fake when he yelled at the press at least twice regarding fake news. But this is important information he gets out here today. I like how he talks about it. He talks about, hey, they pretty much look like started this thing when I came down the escalator back in June of 2015. And he could be right. Obama could have said, okay, look at who potentially has a chance. Ann Coulter said back then she thought he was probably going to be the nominee. Look to see who has a chance and start doing counter intel. So maybe the counter intel wasn't just on Trump either. Maybe it was on the field. Maybe it was also on Jeb Bush. I forgot the guy's name. Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, possibly Scott Walker up in Wisconsin, governor of Wisconsin. Maybe they were doing a bunch of counter intel. Maybe it wasn't just limited to Donald Trump. Maybe it was a whole skew of people trying to get trash on them so they could give it to Clinton. Again, my opinion, my theory on this one is that even though what we're seeing here is really, really bad, as far as, oh my God, I can't believe they did this. I can't believe that they had this insurance policy and all this. My opinion, this is counter intel. When you think you know what the operation is, you don't. Okay, this is what, if they got caught, this is what the operation is supposed to look like. But in my opinion, the actual operation was, and that's why when Stefan Halper's name got mentioned back in June 18th of this year, and I looked up Stefan Halper, and then again, I think I blank this out of my memory from the 1980 and 1983 when it came out, DebateGate, because it was Ronald Reagan. Stefan Halper, if you remember correctly, was the guy who stole Jimmy Carter's debate preparation materials and he was working for the Reagan campaign and gave it over to Ronald Reagan. Again, I'm not saying Reagan knew they were stolen. I'm not saying that. I don't know. Maybe the staff didn't tell him. They just said, well, if he says this, says this. I don't know. But all I know, the campaign had all of Jimmy Carter's debate preparation materials. And remember, in 1980, those of you old enough like me to remember, there was only one debate that year because Carter wasn't going to debate him. Carter was playing that Iran hostage strategy, staying inside the White House. And then finally he saw the numbers and they said, hey, you better debate this guy because he's coming up. He might just beat you. So Carter agreed, but only agreed to one debate. And that was it. And Reagan cleaned his clock on that debate. And it was only, I think, like 6 or 7 days before the actual election day. It was right up on top of it. So there wasn't a lot of time, if you lost that debate, a lot of time to try to make up ground. And if you won, you could kind of ride that right up until election day. And Ronald Reagan did. And probably a big part of the reason why Ronald Reagan won that year was because Jimmy Carter was still an incumbent. He still has that. Part of the reason why he won was because of his debate performance. And Stefan Halper stole those materials. And Stefan Halper was one of the guys who met with Papadopoulos and Page. So why are you bringing Stefan Halper in? Well, because he has experience in stealing debate preparation materials. So you get these FISA 702 warrants. And again, with the FISA 702, it's only used the FBI director and the director of national intelligence. That'd be James Comey and Jim Clapper, DNI, okay? So those two have to sign off on it, but it can only be used against foreign persons, except, this is where it gets really crazy, if two of those people, if like, say one of those people mentions this, you got a foreigner that you're doing a FISA 702 warrant on, right? And so it doesn't have to go through the court. It's just those two guys sign off on it, and they got it, and they can go to NSA with it, and then pull up all the phone records and all the conversations. If that guy you get the warrant on is actually then talking to somebody, and he talks to an American, then you can do the same thing with that American. You can scan everybody he's ever talked to and listen to all those phone calls going back X amount of years, who knows how long. So they were already getting all that information way back, probably who knows when, February, March, April, the summertime, 2016. And they were feeding that over, in my opinion, 2015 rather, feeding that information over to the Clinton campaign. And then right through, we got March, April 2016, the April meeting with Papadopoulos, April 2016, feeding that information right to the Clinton campaign in real time, giving, being able to go through the campaign headquarters. Admiral Rogers says, the Trump Tower is being tapped. That's where his campaign headquarters was. He told them that in November of 2016, right after the election. So his Trump Tower had been tapped for a long time, where his campaign headquarters was. And so they were, in my opinion, they were giving that information directly to the Clinton campaign in real time, and they were using that as strategy to fight Trump. And they probably had his debate preparation materials, but like I said back on the 18th, was that Trump never stayed on script. Carter stayed on script. Trump says, fuck you, I'm not staying on script. Get somebody else. So he doesn't stay on script, thank God, because Clinton would have cleaned his clock. So that's, in my opinion, the real operation, was to actually, provide real-time intel to the Clinton campaign. And this is like horrible. We're looking at it. Oh my God, it's horrible. It's distracting us from what really they were doing. And, remember, Joe Biden was the liaison in the White House. POTUS wants to know everything. That White House is running the operation. He says Biden up to be the liaison with DOJ, FBI, State Department. And my guess is the information is coming up. Biden gets a hold of it. He has to give it to somebody he trusts in the Clinton campaign who's not going to dime him out, somebody sleazy, John Podesta. They've known each other for decades. Boom, information going both ways. Podesta asking for info. Biden's going back down. It's come back up. Off it goes. And then if they did get discovered, this gets discovered. But the real thing, I think, it was in real time giving information to the Clinton campaign. But anyway, let's take a look and see what Donald Trump has to say here, and then we'll come right back after that. It's about 5-6 minutes, so it's a pretty good video. I liked it.
A very good day today, the Republican Party, our country. There was no defense of what Robert Mueller was trying to defend, in all fairness to Robert Mueller, whether his performance was
All right, guys, hold on a second. It looks like it froze up. I'll take care of this in just 1 second. Hold on. Oh, in the meantime, you can watch The Zombie. Hey, everybody, watch The Zombie.
A bad one or a good one. I think everybody understands that. I think everybody understands what's going on. There was no defense to this ridiculous hoax, this witch hunt that's been going on for a long time, pretty much from the time I came down on the escalator with our First Lady. And it's a disgrace what happened, but I think today proved a lot to everybody. In fact, some of my biggest opponents wrote things today that I wouldn't have believed they would have written, and I appreciate that they did that. This has been a very bad thing for our country, and despite everything we've been through, it's been an incredible 2.5 years for our country. The administration, our president, me, we've done a great job. We've got the strongest stock market, the best unemployment numbers, the most number of people ever working in the history of our country right now, almost 160 million. Our military has been rebuilt and getting even stronger. We've done a great job, and we've done it under this terrible phony cloud, a phony cloud, that's all it was. And they should be ashamed of themselves, absolutely ashamed. And you know who knew it was a phony cloud more than anyone else? Was Schiff and Nadler and Schumer and Pelosi, every one of them. They all knew it was phony stuff. And you look at the polls are showing it maybe more than anybody else or anything else. And I've had my best polls, and I don't say why, but people see what's gone on in our country with this whole thing. I've been going through it for 3 years. For 3 years, all nonsense. So this was a very big day for our country. This was a very big day for the Republican Party. And you could say it was a great day for me, but I don't even like to say that. It's great. I'll tell you what, I very much appreciate those incredible warriors that you watched today on television, Republicans, that defended something and defended something very powerful, very important, because they were really defending our country. More than anything else, they were defending our country. But they were warriors, and they've been warriors for a long time. And everybody knew it was a hoax, especially the Democrats. I wish we could be a fly in the wall in those rooms where the Democrats would go in and talk before and after meetings, and they'd be laughing and smiling and say, can you believe that we're getting away with this? But in the end, they didn't get away with it. Yeah. So there is no such a thing. He didn't have the right to exonerate. And, you know, it's very interesting. People mention exoneration. That was something where he totally folded because he never had the right to exonerate. And it was covered very well by Congressman Turner and put to a conclusion. We were, if you take a look at not only the report, beyond the report, take a look at not what he said, but what he was forced to say. And even your networks and your network and your network and every one of these networks, they put up their hands. You know, we had a couple of cases with, actually we had about 6 cases where they asked our people, our representatives, television networks, please don't come in tonight. We're not going to be doing much on it. And the reason they're not, because it's over. Go ahead. So WikiLeaks is a hoax just like everything else. And all of those problems having to do with crime were the biggest hoax of all. It was a witch hunt, a total witch hunt. And when you saw Robert Mueller's statement, the earlier statement, and then he did a recap, he did a correction later on in the afternoon. And you know what that correction was? And you still ask the question. You know why? Because you're fake news. And you're one of the most. And let me just tell you, the fact that you even asked that question, you're fake news. Because you know what? He totally corrected himself in the afternoon. And you know that just as well as anybody. Caitlin. I don't know whose answers weren't. I guess his answers weren't, because if you look, the whole report, you take a look at what they did. Some of the things that he didn't even know about. Some of the things he didn't even know what was going on. But you know, in the end, what he did, he actually probably came through for himself. The performance was obviously not very good. He had a lot of problems. But what he showed more than anything else is that this whole thing has been 3 years of embarrassment and waste of time for our country. And you know what? The Democrats thought they could win an election like this. I think they hurt themselves very badly for 2020.
Did your son, Donald Trump Jr., speak with Robert Mueller?
Did I what?
Did your son, Donald Trump Jr., speak with Robert Mueller?
I don't know. I really don't know. I never had. Don't know. Yeah, go ahead. I mean, frankly, whether or not he did, it wouldn't matter to me, because he did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong because it's so unimportant. It was always a very unimportant meeting. It was only important to the fake news. Go ahead. No, he didn't say that. Again, you're fake news, and you're right at the top of the list also. Let me just tell you, go back to it's not what he said. Read his correction. Read his correction. If you read his correction, you'll find out. That's why people don't deal with you, because you're not an honest reporter.
All right, we're back, and we'll jump on to another story real quick here. So let me just jump over here. Yo, so there you go, and let's pull up the let's see, the John Durham story. Boom, and find me. Hey, there I am. Hey. So, right, this is continuing on with Mr. Mifsud. John Durham seeks interview with Clinton dirt tipster Joseph Mifsud. Again, I wish it was M-I-S-F-U-D. It would be easier to pronounce, but yeah, M-I-F-S-U-D. So, Mifsud. Mifsud. He probably did that on purpose because he's a spy. Like, made his name all goofy and stuff. But, yeah, no, you're not an honest reporter. Yeah, I like that. It's like right in your face, like screw these people. I mean, they're sitting there. I mean, it was a disaster. Lawrence Tribe, even who's a law school professor, which at Harvard, I mean, this guy, he just showed his true colors. I mean, he's been a never Trumper. Like, I mean, he's supposed to be talking about, constitutional law and stuff, and he's just a big never Trumper, and he's twisting all kinds of stuff. It's terrible. And anytime he debates with Dershowitz just cleans his clock, and, he's an idiot. But, even today he said this was a disaster for the Democrats. I was watching MSNBC this morning right after the morning Judiciary Committee hearing, and Ari Melber, attorney, wonder how many jury trials he won. I'm sure, I don't know, but I don't know. You never hear him talk about it, so about his trial experience. But hey, he's an attorney. He knows stuff. So anyway, he's on there. He was all like, he couldn't believe it. He was on there. Brian Williams and Nicole Wallace are back in the studio, and he's at the Capitol. And he's like, what was that? Like, what was that? What was all that about? Like, we didn't get anything. He goes, there was no big stuff. It was interagency stuff. And then they go back to Brian Williams and Nicole Wallace, and it's like, well, yeah, I guess it wasn't exciting. And, you can see like, oh, shit. And then Brian Williams goes, yeah, a lot of Democrats using the D word as in disaster, because they were thinking like this was going to be their big ticket, right? This was going to be it, They would have just left well enough alone. They had the report, and they would have demonstrated that the guy who supposedly wrote the report, one, didn't write it, and two, suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia. They could have just kept that quiet. Nobody would have known. And probably nobody would have brought it up. Unless he like drove his car into a tree or something. But now the whole world can see that this whole thing was a sham. He wasn't running the investigation. He didn't write the report. He signed his name to it. That's a fraud. He's probably operating under the federal rules of civil procedure. That'd be Rule 11. As an attorney, you sign your name to something like that. To an investigation. Hello, and you gotta certify that everything in there is true and correct, and probably had a penalty of perjury line at the bottom anyway. Well, how did he know? He didn't know it was true and correct because he didn't write it, and he probably didn't know anything was going on around him at the time. He was kind of sitting there in the office in space. If he was even in the office, who knows? We don't know anything. Trump is genetically incapable of holding back. Yes, and I love that about him. That is great. There's like no filter. It's like he's like, no, man, I'm taking a victory lap. Like, gee, maybe I should do the humble thing and just say, everybody gave a good shot. Everybody, they took their turn. Okay, fine. No, he's like, no, screw you guys. You guys suck. You're fake news. You suck. The Democrats, they suck. Called all the Democrats out by name. Said they knew. They've known for a long time. So he knew they knew because they were briefed. So, and they're still pursuing this. Well, whatever hopes of the Democrats wanting any kind of impeachment proceedings after this debacle, who knows? Anyway, I saw like part of the end of Rachel when she was handing it off to Lawrence O'Donnell tonight, and she could just see there's like a little tear in her eye, and she was doing a fake smile, and I didn't watch her old show, thank God. I probably would have thrown up, but you could tell she was just like devastated. And then she's handing it off to Lawrence, and he goes, "Oh, we're going to show you some. If you didn't get to watch the whole 7 hours today." We're going to show you some clips. Well, I'm sure they didn't show him the clips of Mueller being like a complete loser. What? Who? What? Where am I? Who are you? Get off my lawn. I was going to title this this YouTube video tonight. Trump 2020, then Mueller. Get off my lawn. And who are you? And why am I here? And what? This doesn't look like my house. Something like that. So, but I didn't title it that, so I just titled it this way. But, because, again, and the reason for the title is what they've done through this whole mess is just keep, Putin and Trump from being able to have a real relationship. In the meantime, Putin's he figures, hey, if they're getting rid of Trump and they're going to be coming after me, I got to make friends. Well, he made friends with the Chinese. They did that joint operation over South Korean airspace. First time in history, ever. Their planes and Chinese planes flying together, and they're buying all kinds of arms from each other and trading, and Putin and Trump could have got along fantastically. I mean, you just tell those two guys, they're the same type of guys, both nationalists, both megalomaniacs, both high on themselves. They would have got along great. But they're always like so afraid of like looking at each other even. Oh, they looked at each other. Oh, they smiled at each other. Oh no, what are we gonna do? The world's coming to an end. Collusion. Russian agent. Sleeper cell. Peeing on the bed. Oh no. 3 years of this shit. 3 years. 3 years of this crap. To find out the guy who was in charge of the investigation got Alzheimer's. You can't even write that. If you put that in a movie and said, hey, we're going to do where a president of the United States is under investigation for 3 years and the guy in charge of the investigation for 2.5 of those years has Alzheimer's. Doesn't know what he's doing. Doesn't even know what time of day it is. Doesn't even know where he is half the time. It's like, really? You try pitching that to a Hollywood producer, be like, get out of here. That's so unbelievable. That's crazy. Yeah, well, it's true. It just happened in real time. This is just... again, like, people like, oh, I wasn't there when the Mayflower landed. Oh, I wasn't there during the Revolutionary War. Oh, I wasn't there at Iwo Jima. Oh, I missed all these great historical events. You are living a really crazy historical event in real time right now. 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, people will be writing about this, hopefully like, while we're still alive. And we can say, yeah, we were there. We saw it happen. It was crazy. And then when hopefully Durham, hey, Irina, where is the diagnosis? Where is the proof? Where's the proof? I watched, his testimony today. If you want to, go back and watch it, Irina, and then you tell me if he doesn't have Alzheimer's. Okay? You tell me he does not suffering from dementia. Go back and watch it. Go back and watch it. Where's the diagnosis? I don't know, Irina. Why don't I just go get an independent medical exam and get a court order to have him tested? Maybe. You think that'll happen? Yeah, I'll just sue Robert Mueller, then I'll ask the court for an independent medical exam and then have him pronounce Alzheimer's. Okay? I don't know, Irina. I don't know. But go back and watch that testimony today. I did in preparation for tonight's YouTube video on Carl's opinion. You go back and watch it and you tell me he doesn't have Alzheimer's or early onset of dementia or something. His man was not there. In fact, I wrote down some quotes. If you've been here earlier, you would have seen them. Okay, here's some friends of his from the FBI. Not the Bob Mueller I know. David Axelrod, what did he say? He said, pretty sad, pretty sad, pretty sad. Okay? Okay, and then a good friend of his from Justice Department who worked on the Ken Starr investigation said, he went on to say further, he also said the same thing. Not the Bob Mueller I knew. He said he got a lot of calls from people he hadn't heard from in years, FBI agents, former deputy U.S. attorneys, saying the same thing. And then he went on to say something more than that. He goes, there's something wrong with him. I don't know when it started. Okay? I don't know when it started. Okay? So go back. You can watch it on Fox. You can watch it wherever you want to watch it. Washington Post, they all live streamed it today. You can go back and watch it and take a look. No, he doesn't. He's just a liar. What about Mike Mueller? So anyway, look at it, and you tell me he doesn't. Tell me his faculties are all there. Tell me you trust him driving your kid to school, getting behind the wheel of a car. There's a good test. Watch it today and then say, yeah, call him up and say, hey, can you drive my kid to school tomorrow? Okay, see if you're willing to do that. I doubt it after you watch today's testimony. It's right there for everybody to see. Anyway. John Durham seeks interview with Clinton Dirt tipster. So now we're going to show you a video from June 18th when we went to a deep dive, and it's a live call-in show. Someone wants to call in. You got the number. Now, I don't have my broadcast delay set up because I was doing all these YouTube videos. And the way I ran it today, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do a broadcast delay. It made it easier for me. Didn't mean I thought it was Ething. Oh. Okay. No, I think he had dementia. Irina, I really do. I mean, he's got something going on, for sure. Oh, you didn't get me mad. That's the attorney in me. I'm a trial attorney. I litigate. I go to trial. So that was just the attorney me coming out. Yeah. So, sorry. It's like, this is what I do for a living. Okay, I don't do YouTube for a living, although I do a lot of it, but I don't do it for a living. But I do it for a living. I'm a career trial attorney for over 25 years. Won a whole shitload of jury trials and bench trials and preliminary hearings and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I get into attorney mode once in a while. So I do apologize, and I'll apologize in advance if it happens again. So there you go. But let's see. So anyway, John Durham seeks interview with Clinton Dirt tipster Joseph Mifsud. Now I'm going to show you the video from June 18th, because I go into really good detail on that, and instead of me going back and doing all that research again, I'll just show you this, and we'll just break into it every once in a while. So let's do that. Let me take some stuff down here real quick so it doesn't interfere with it. Okay. I think the call-in number comes in on the other video. Let me see. No, it doesn't. Oh, that's weird. All right, so actually, yeah, I can leave that up and take that one down. Okay, that'll be good. Okay, good. I can leave that right where it is. And we'll take, let's see. All right, let's try to pretend I'm halfway intelligent tonight. Let's see if we can do this. See, and that's me. I quick change shirts. No, actually, no, that's not. I'm wearing a different shirt. It's still me, though. I got the same headset on. Well, that's amazing. I don't know how that happened, but go figure. Hey, I guess I had the same headset at the time. Same mic setup, too. Same mic. Oh, my God. There you go. So I guess it wasn't that long ago. It was only a few weeks. All right, so anyway, let's take a look at this, and then we'll cut it. I'll cut into it every now and then. and we'll discuss it. And then also, again, it's a live call-in show. If you want to call in, 775-273-8970. If you want to appear by video, vMix video call, you can do that tonight as well. So let's go ahead and get this one started. And hopefully it doesn't freeze up. Let's see. In July of 2016. No, that not true. And you'll see on this, I mean, Mifsud was talking to Papadopoulos in March of 2016, and he didn't just like wake up and say, I'm going to go talk to Papadopoulos tomorrow. No, he was sent over there by Brennan to go do that, and Mifsud had worked for Italian intelligence. Mueller had put in his report that he was a Russian asset, a Russian agent. The Italians just, and Black Conservative Patriot covered this pretty good too. I think it was yesterday or the day before. He did a really good video on it. And you see that, you know, Brennan Mifsud he was not a Russian asset, was not a Russian agent. The Italians came forward and say, no, he was not a Russian agent, he was not a Russian asset, he was ours. And by the way, the prime minister just fired the two top intelligence chiefs for the country. Because when he found out, when he got into this, he found out that the Italian intelligence operation was being used by the CIA to spy on a campaign inside the United States. I mean, the prime minister went through the roof, and he fired these two guys. So here's the headline from June 8th. Again, not a lot of coverage out there. June 8th, 2019, and this is from Community Digital News, CDN. That's CDN, Community Digital News. So let's take a look at the story by L.J. Keith. Rome, Italy. The Prime Minister of Italy has fired two of the country's most powerful intelligence chiefs in a major shakeup. It was directly attributed to their participation with John Brennan and the CIA in using Joseph Mifsud to set up George Papadopoulos as a pretext for launching the Great Russia hoax of 2016. Russian agent Joseph Mifsud is actually an American asset. There we go. So this whole Mifsud thing, and Mueller lied in his report. I mean, just straight out lied. He knew who Mifsud was, and he knew who he worked for. And he knew he wasn't a Russian agent. And he knew he wasn't a Russian asset. And Mifsud was the guy who talked to Papadopoulos, saying, "Hey, you want to buy some hacked, Hillary Clinton emails, 33,000 emails?" And Papadopoulos was like, "What the hell? Who's it? What are you about? That kind of thing." Well, it was actually the CIA/FBI sent Mifsud over to meet with Papadopoulos. Now, here's the important thing. The reason why they're using Italian intelligence, British intelligence, Australian intelligence, because theoretically we still have in this country a law where the CIA cannot spy on Americans inside the United States or even outside the United States. So what they do is they farm it out to outside countries like Italy, Britain, Australia to spy on Americans overseas, not on U.S. soil. And, which is bullshit because, I mean, just because you can't, the CIA gets around it by just doing one little level. I mean, they don't even try to hide it. They just go one level away at Italy. That's why when Trump wanted to declassify all those documents, who was yelling the most? The British intelligence. Why was British intelligence yelling about Trump declassifying reports, on the CIA? Why? Because British intelligence got hired by the CIA to spy on the Trump campaign. And so did Australian intelligence, and obviously now we know Italian intelligence. So anyway, the use of Italian intelligence agencies to spy on members of the Trump campaign have roiled the internal workings of the Italian government at the highest levels. Simply put, Joseph Mifsud, who is represented in the Mueller report on page 1 as a Russian agent, is actually a senior Italian intelligence asset. He works with British intelligence, the CIA, and the FBI. Mifsud trains intelligence agents at a center for advanced intel studies in the hills above Rome. You don't think Mueller knew that this guy had some kind of, that he worked at a school in the hills above Rome in Italy, for Italian intelligence? You don't think Mueller could have known that? You don't think anybody told him, hey, by the way, the guy has this villa in Italy and he has a school that he teaches about spycraft in Italy? And then somehow Mueller says, oh, he's a Russian agent. Bullshit. If he was a Russian agent, how come Mueller didn't have him Papadopoulos indicted for conspiracy with the Russians? Why? Because he knew he wasn't a Russian agent, so he wasn't conspiring with the Russians. He was conspiring with an FBI CIA asset who worked for Italian intelligence. He is living there now. His rent is paid for by the Institute. This is a mysterious, quote-unquote, Russian agent that is at the very center of the official explanation of the origins of the Mueller probe. John Brennan, Peter Strzok, and Robert Mueller insisted Mifsud was a Russian agent. He was supposed to have told the hapless Papadopoulos the Russians had Hillary's 33,000 deleted emails. But how could Mifsud be a Russian agent when he was an Italian asset training American, British, and Italian intelligence agents in their tradecraft? He was working closely with the CIA and FBI. He is seen with FBI agents and senior intelligence officials at numerous functions in D.C., I might add. It underscores the horrific reality of so much of what happened to Donald Trump during the rolling coup d'etat against his presidency. This was part of a greater conspiracy against the candidate, the president, the Constitution, the American people, the rule of law, and the truth. Mifsud was sent in by Brennan to set up Papadopoulos. He was an American asset from Italian intelligence spying on the campaign of the Obama political opposition. He was doing so in a foreign country to circumvent U.S. law. Again, U.S. law says CIA cannot spy on Americans on U.S. soil or cannot spy on, I don't think they can spy on Americans overseas, but they definitely can do it on U.S. soil, so they arranged for Mifsud, a foreign agent, to work with the Italians to go meet with Papadopoulos while he's overseas. Explicitly working with John Brennan and the CIA, Mifsud was a man with a long history with the FBI and American intelligence, with James Clapper and Jim Comey. Yet he is the essential quote-unquote Russian agent at the heart of the conspiracy theory of the Russia hoax foisted on the American people by Mueller and friends. Joseph Mifsud's meeting with George Papadopoulos was all on tape. Like all operations where an informant is infiltrated against a target, they are wearing a wire. It was recorded. There were government witnesses incognito observing the meeting. In other words, they had government witnesses, in the area watching the meeting just to, report back. There's probably a video. It is absolutely certain that there is a government recording in the verbatim word-for-word record of exactly what Mifsud said to Papadopoulos and what he replied back. The coming revelations of foreign government. Okay, so let's take a look to see who is Joseph Mifsud. We'll back into this story real quick. So, hey, here's the question. Who is Joseph Mifsud? Cleared by Mueller, Papadopoulos. Cleared by Mueller, Papadopoulos suggests Mystery Prof was an FBI agent. So Papadopoulos gives an interview. Papadopoulos just wrote a book. This is from the World Tribune, May 13th. So, a Maltese professor reportedly in the know, there's a picture of Papadopoulos next to Mifsud, a Maltese professor reportedly in the know on the 30,000 emails that Hillary Clinton ordered destroyed played a little reported but key role in the launching of the Trump investigation. Joseph Mifsud, an academic from Malta with alleged high-level connection to the Russian government, was, according to some reports, shopping information on the Clinton emails to Trump campaign associate George Papadopoulos. The Maltese man of mystery told the 20-something Trump advisor on April 26, 2016, that Moscow owned dirt on Clinton. Roman Scarborough reported for the Washington Times on May 12. What followed was a series of events which culminated with anti-Trump FBI agent Peter Strzok opening the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. And Crossfire Hurricane, that just shows you how disgusting these people are. Trump was playing like the Rolling Stones, like he does now, like you heard him playing today at his events. So Strzok and friends thought it would be funny to call the operation Crossfire Hurricane, because as I looked up last night, Crossfire Hurricane is a famous Rolling Stones song. I think they took it, kind of in the genre of like Muddy Waters and stuff from the, the blues movement here in the 1960s. And so they thought it'd be funny to name it after a Rolling Stones song. That shows you how sick these people are, Anyway, what you see here, this is why Jim Jordan was asking Mueller, how come you didn't interview him? How come you didn't interview Mifsud? I mean, this whole thing started with Mifsud. And he even asked him, was Mifsud Western intelligence or Russian intelligence? Oh, I can't talk about that. Oh, that's funny, because in his report he actually wrote that he, had Russian contacts and, blah, 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 implied that he was a Russian agent in his report. Well, it turns out he wasn't, because after the report was written, Italy found out exactly what was going on and said, wait a second, Mifsud is one of our guys. And then the prime minister found out that the two top intelligence chiefs were working with Brennan and had Mifsud go and deal with Papadopoulos. And the Italian prime minister, like we started that article from June 18th, fired his two top intelligence chiefs, got on a plane, and then flew to D.C., had a special meeting with Mike Pompeo and Vice President Pence at the White House. He didn't talk to him on the phone because he knew better. He got on a plane, flew all the way to D.C. from Rome to tell them what was going on, what they were doing, and to kind of share some stories as to what the hell was going on here. So, again, remember, the people who wanted to keep Trump from declassifying these documents a year ago was British intelligence. Why? Because British intelligence was working with the CIA to spy on an American presidential campaign. Okay? And Trump was even asked about it and said, when he's getting ready to meet with Theresa May, I covered this last night, he goes, well, I may bring that up with her. Yeah. Like, why was your spy agency spying on Americans, especially an American nominee for president of the United States? What was that about? So you see here that the plot just thickens. But anyway, live call-in show. If you want to call in, 775-273-8970. Be interested in your opinion to see what you guys think about this. But yeah, this Mifsud guy. So this in the cover story was that, again, like as this was reported, the cover story for Mifsud was that he was working with the Russians and he was trying to shop around some emails. Well, the truth was he wasn't working with the Russians. He didn't have any emails. He didn't even know if the Russians had any emails. He was told by Strzok, Comey, Clapper, Brennan to go talk to this Papadopoulos guy and tell him you work with the Russians and that you have these emails. And then, of course, then they set up a meeting with Alexander Downer, again, with ties to the Clinton Foundation, who got Australia in 2006 to donate $25 million to the Clinton Foundation, the largest amount of money Australia ever donated to any single entity. And Alexander Downer's signature is actually on the contract with the Clinton Foundation on behalf of the Australian government. So then, okay, so then this idiot Mifsud tells Papadopoulos, Russian emails, Hillary Clinton emails, the Russians got them, I can get them for you. Then supposedly Downer meets with Papadopoulos in London. Papadopoulos says he's pretty drunk. Downer says, he told me what Mifsud told him. So then he goes back to Strzok and he goes to Strzok of the FBI and says, hey, this guy says he's got the Russian emails. And Strzok goes, oh my God, brand new information. We didn't know that. We better open a counterintelligence investigation, even though Mifsud and Downer are both working for him. So they told Mifsud what to say to him, and then Mifsud tells Papadopoulos. They arrange a meeting with Downer and Papadopoulos in a bar. So of course, get Papadopoulos drunk, and then Papadopoulos says, this crazy guy. I don't know if he even said it, but assume he did. This crazy guy said he can give me some emails. And Downer goes, oh my God, and runs to the FBI and says, oh my God, and the FBI goes, oh my God, we didn't know that. And then they start the counterintel investigation. They get the FISA court warrant to cover their ass on the previous thing, as we said. If you even, say you mention the name ISIS, you're an American. You mention ISIS. Well, they can get a FISA 702 on you. They don't have to go to get a FISA court warrant. They can just get, all it takes is two signatures. Director of National Intelligence, that's James Clapper, and the Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, that's Jim Comey. So that's it. And that's how they got into the campaign. And all this was just a setup from the very get-go. It was all bullshit. Mifsud wasn't working with the Russians. He worked with the Italians. The Italians admitted that. They said, no, he's one of ours. It was bullshit. There were no, whether the Russians have Hillary Clinton emails or not, I don't know. My guess is China probably has them, if I take a guess. Whether the Russians had them or not, probably not. Okay, and this fact that he was even saying, I can get them for you, And why would he tell Papadopoulos just got hired? He was hired as a foreign policy expert. Okay, so that was bullshit. And so this whole thing started from bullshit. And Mueller should have gone back and looked to see, okay, how did this whole fucking thing get started anyway? Okay, and he only fired Strzok. He didn't fire Strzok because he found out about the text messages. He fired Strzok after the public found out about the text messages that Strzok had sending, saying we're going to stop him, we're going to end this, and with his lover Lisa Page. No. See, Mueller surrounded himself with a bunch of guys who hated Trump. He hated Trump, so the only people he hired were Trump haters. He goes, well, I got him from DOJ. Well, yeah, he picked him out from DOJ. Could have picked anybody out. He wasn't like the only 13 attorneys at the Department of Justice. No. He chose these people. So anyway, let's continue on with this. I should show you how sick they are. That's why they named the operation Crossfire Hurricane, because it was a Stone song, and Trump was playing Stone songs at his events, and this was like, ha, 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 we're going to get you, you asshole. So that's who these people are. Hold on. All right, so anyway, Representative Devin Nunes, Papadopoulos said he has little doubt Mifsud was a Western intelligence operative, possibly FBI, topic which observers say was conveniently left out of the Mueller report. Yeah, he kind of left that part out. Like the guy teaches at a school in Italy just north of Rome, and he's been doing that for years, and he lives there, and he has his rent paid by the Institute, and he works for Italian intelligence. I guess Mueller didn't know any of that. Well, yeah, no, I agree. These people, you're going to see just how long they've been busy. If you notice in the title, I put Obama, Italy, Brennan, Mifsud, Roberts, that's Chief Justice John Roberts, that's Justice Antonin Scalia, that's Michael Hastings, a reporter for Rolling Stone, who wrote for Rolling Stone, and also Mitt Romney. This goes back quite some ways. This goes back to 2012, and we're going to get to that in a few minutes here. This didn't just start yesterday. That's why this operation was ready to go in 2016. They'd already done this once before. They did it to Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan back in 2012. Yeah. So, I mean, okay, look, I love Ronald Reagan, okay? Everybody knows that. I voted for the guy in 1984, first president I got to vote for. But I also watched the Reagan-Carter debate, the only debate they had in 1980. Stefan Halper was working for the Reagan campaign. Stefan Halper, name sound familiar? He also met with Papadopoulos in September of 2016 and Carter Page. And he was working for the CIA slash FBI slash Obama White House this time. Well, he did the same thing this time that he did back in 1980. To wit, in 1980, God, I hate saying this, he's the one who stole President Carter's debate preparation material and gave it over to the Reagan campaign staff. He's the one who did that. Him and his CIA friends who hated Jimmy Carter because Carter sacked like 3,000 agents. Because you remember, Carter came in 76. He got elected in 76, came in 77. Remember, the CIA just went through the whole scandal with Laos, Vietnam, MK Ultra, and so Carter was going to clean house. He was a governor from Georgia, and he was going to come in and clean all these terrible, evil people out of the CIA. Well, the CIA didn't like that. So sure enough, they have one debate, and what does Halper do? Halper steals. They called it DebateGate. Came out in 1983. Halper steals all of Jimmy Carter's debate preparation material. So if you watch that debate, if you're old enough to remember that debate, I do. The famous line where Reagan turns to President Carter and goes, "Oh, there you go again, Jimmy," and it was like the big line from the debate. And it was talking about when Jimmy Carter brought up the fact that Reagan wanted to, I believe, invade the Social Security Trust Fund to pay for whatever, or to reduce the deficit. And Reagan knew he was going to say that. And the reason why he knew he was going to say that because Halper stole all his debate materials, and Carter was very much a guy who was on script. So, same thing here. So, anyway, 2012, if you notice, President Obama looked really, really sharp against Mitt Romney in those debates in 2012. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe because he was spying on Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, and of course that leads to the staff and all the headquarters and all the emails and communications and all the computers, and all who's writing this speech, who's writing this debate prep. Mitt Romney's a very much on-script kind of guy. He's not an ad-libber like Trump. Now, in 2016, as I stated a couple times on different shows here, 2016, Hillary Clinton had all that on Donald Trump also. It was the whole point of this crossfire hurricane. The official version was to get, debate preparation materials on Donald Trump, campaign strategy to spy on Page, which led to the Trump campaign and everybody else. So you can see, you can counter the Trump campaign strategy, specifically know what Trump was going to say during the debate. Well, here's the problem. Unlike Jimmy Carter, Trump is not a guy who stays on script. Okay, he doesn't even, if you give him a script, say, okay, say this at the debate. Like I guarantee you, when Trump said to Hillary, remember he says, Hillary goes, "Well, I'm glad you're not in charge," or something like that, and Trump goes, "Yeah, good thing for you because you'd be in jail." I guarantee you, his staff didn't tell him to say that. I guarantee you his staff was probably cringing in the back room when he was saying that. So in other words, Trump didn't stay on script. So that's why Clinton looked so frustrated during the debates with Trump, because she's like, I have his script, and how come he's not staying on it? She was ready to counter everything he said because she knew what he was supposed to say and then counter it and win. So she would have cleaned his clock if he stayed on script. But Trump is such like a dick. He doesn't listen to anybody, doesn't take anybody's advice, just does what he wants to do. And thank God. Because if he had taken people's advice, if he had stayed on script during those debates, Clinton would have cleaned his clock, and he'd probably be President Clinton right now. So anyway, yeah. So that was pretty good. Now I'm going to pull up another story here, and we'll just jump over to it real quick here. And Australian diplomat whose tip prompted FBI's. Let me jump back over here. Australian diplomat whose tip prompted FBI's Russia probe has tie to the Clintons. So let's find out just what kind of ties this guy has. All right. This is from The Hill. This is from, I know if you guys watch Sean Hannity, you know who John Solomon is. John Solomon and Allison Spann. This was from March 5th of 2018. Didn't get a lot of coverage anywhere else now, did it? Yeah. This is from a year and a half ago. Wow. Go figure. So anyway, Australian diplomat whose tip prompted FBI's Russia probe has tied to the Clintons. Okay. The Australian diplomat whose tip in 2016 prompted the Russia-Trump investigation previously arranged one of the largest foreign donations to Bill and Hillary Clinton's charitable efforts, documents show. Charitable my ass. Okay, 80% administration costs, 20% goes to help actual real people. And the administration costs, that's called salaries for Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea. Okay, that's what that's called. Former Australian Foreign Minister Alexander Downer's role in securing $25 million in aid from his country to help the Clinton Foundation fight AIDS is chronicled in decade-old government memos archived on the Australian Foreign Ministry's website. Downer and former President Clinton jointly signed a memorandum of understanding in February '06 that spread out the grant money over 4 years for a project to provide screening and drug treatment to AIDS patients in Asia. And there's a copy of the agreement, which we don't need to read. I read it. It says pretty much, we're giving you a bunch of money, and you're going to do some good stuff with it. Signed, this is important here, signed for the Australian Government, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honourable, less than, Alexander Downer, MP. And there's, for the William J. Clinton Foundation, the Honourable William J. Clinton. Looked like he was drunk when he signed it. Anyway, the money was initially allocated to the Clinton Foundation, but later was routed through an affiliate of the charity known as the Clinton Health Access Initiative. Officials said Australia was one of 4 foreign governments to donate more than $25 million to CHAI record show. Now, why is 2006 important? Well, everybody knew that Hillary Clinton was going to be running for president in 2008, and it looked like she was, going to be getting the nomination. Nobody thought at the time that, Barack Obama, state senator, was going to who was running for U.S. Senate at the time, was going to be running for president in 2008. So everybody's thinking like, oh, we're going to get these people some money so we can buy some influence. How much money was that grant money for? Where did that money come from? Well, it came from the taxpayers of Australia. That's where it came from. Yeah, $25 million. So everybody figured, well, okay, let's start sending money to the Clintons, either through speeches or through donating to their charitable foundations. Let's see. What did Rena write? Okay, during today's clown show, a Republican stated that Mueller's attorney assistant was the one that was ordered to destroy Hillary's devices. No one countered the statement. Yeah, actually, Tucker reported on that, too. There was somebody on Tucker's show that was talking about that, too, that this guy, Jordan, actually, I think he was the attorney who represented, the guy sitting next to him was the attorney who represented one of the Clinton people who was charged with who was accused of destroying the phones and stuff. So the guy sitting next to him was an attorney, and I believe he had worked for the Clintons himself. And then Mueller decides to bring him up and sit him down next to him. Of all the people to bring up there, the guy that actually was representing one of the Clinton people who allegedly destroyed, phones and information containing emails, and Mueller has him sit next to him. There you go, Arena. There's another evidence that he's suffering from dementia. The last guy you want to bring sitting next to you is that guy. But anyway, that's kind of funny. The money was initially out. Okay, so anyway, so $25 million. Okay, so let's see here. In the years that followed, the project won praise for helping thousands of HIV-infected patients in Papua New Guinea, Vietnam, China, and Indonesia, but also garnered criticism from auditors, go figure that, about management weaknesses. Yeah, that means they were taking too much money out to pay themselves. And inadequate budget oversight, the memos show. Downer, now Australian ambassador to London, provided the account of a conversation with Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos at a London bar in 2016 that became the official reason the FBI opened the Russia counterintelligence probe. And everybody's saying that Downer is actually not just Australian ambassador, but Australian intelligence. The lawmakers say the FBI didn't tell Congress about Downer's prior connection to the Clinton Foundation. Republicans say they are concerned the new information means nearly all of the early evidence the FBI used to justify its election year probe of Trump came from sources supportive of the Clintons, including the controversial Steele dossier. The Clintons' tentacles go everywhere, so that's why it's important, said Jim Jordan, who we just saw earlier, chairman of a House Oversight and Government Reform Subcommittee that has been taking an increasingly visible role defending the Trump administration and the Russia probe. This is, again, from, I think, March of 2018, last year. We continue to get new information every week that it seems that sort of underscores the fact that the FBI hasn't been square with us. Spokesman for the FBI in Russia, Special Counsel Robert Mueller, declined comment. Yeah, well, there you go. The Australian Foreign Ministry says the Clinton grant was handled like all its other $2 billion annual foreign aid awards, and it ultimately helped thousands in Asia gain access to antiretroviral AIDS medications. Democrats accuse the GOP of overreaching. Yeah, see, a year ago saying, oh, you guys are crazy. I remember watching Sean Hannity like a year and a half ago, and even I was like, oh, no, this is, and Solomon was on, in fact. John Solomon, the guy who wrote this article for the Hill, and he was saying all this stuff, and I go, this just sounds crazy. This can't be true, because it was just so crazy. It's like I said, if you gave this whole script of the last 3 years to a Hollywood producer and said, I got a movie for you, check this out, the producer would like throw it back at you. Are you crazy? Who would believe this? This is so insane. This is so insane. Alexander Downer ties to the Clintons. Then he's an Australian. He's Australian intelligence. And Brennan, CIA, working with Mifsud, Italian intelligence. I mean, you put all this together, then Papadopoulos, and then poor Carter Page, and then these guys, and that guy, and oh my God, it's like you really could not have made this up, okay? And it's all true, and it's all coming to light. It's all coming to the light, and everything we were saying a year and a half ago, and even I wasn't buying everything that even Solomon was saying, is coming true. And the Democrats are like, oh, you people are crazy. Trump wasn't bugged. Well, the story I cover in this video from June 18th, albeit it's pretty far down the line, so we probably won't get to it tonight. But again, check out the June 18th video. Admiral Rogers tells Trump, "Hey, Trump Towers, you're being bugged." And they're like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I already informed the FISA court and reported it and said." And then, of course, after Admiral Rogers reports it, then 2 members of the Obama administration recommend he gets fired. And Rogers was the head of the NSA at the time. They didn't even tell him they were doing it. Obviously, he found out because he just did. Okay. And he told Trump, your tower's being bugged right now. In fact, I wonder if he told him while he was in the building with him. He was like, by the way, can we step outside and have a cigarette? He goes, why? Well, just trust me. He goes outside, and he said, hey, man, that whole place is bugged in there. I ain't talking in there. Holy shit. And they said after that, they moved their, was it Bedminster, New Jersey? They moved to one of Trump's golf course resorts. They moved the headquarters over there for the transition team. Yeah, he still met some people at Trump Tower, but it wasn't anything like important kind of stuff. Yeah, so they had to end up moving to New Jersey because their tower was bugged. So he comes out and says they were bugging me, and all the MSNBC. Oh, he's talking crazy. Obama, he would never do that. Oh no, he's so nice. He's so nice. He would never do that. Yeah, he was. He was doing it. And when Biden set that meeting up in the Oval Office in January of 2017, he set it up for a reason. Because he wanted all the players in there because he knew who's going to be the fall guy. Because Obama put him in charge of being the liaison with all these, state, DOJ, FBI, CIA, DNI. And he goes, well, fuck this. I'm not going down by myself. So he set the meeting up in the Oval Office with President Obama and Jared and Rice and all her friends and Rhodes and everybody else. And then that's when Rice sent herself that email on January 20th, the day of the inauguration, about an hour before Trump got sworn in, and she lost her account, saying, "Yeah, we handled it. We were discussing a really weird investigation, but we thought we did it all by the book." It was like this total CYA, email she sent herself, and there was nobody else in the White House. She was there by herself, and she just got on the computer, put her account in, and sent it to herself to be a part of the permanent record, so she could have. Have a cover your ass moment of all this shit hit the fan, which it is now, unfortunately, 3 years later. It takes a while in this country. We talked about that before. 3 years later, now coming to light. And everything Trump was saying back then, and everything Republicans were saying back then, things I was saying back then, although I wasn't saying as much as John Solomon because I just couldn't believe some of this stuff, it's true. And the Democrats got big egg on their face, and their big star witness today fell flat, literally. And now they have to go back to being divided again. Because now they don't have this story to keep them unified. Ain't going to happen. So Trump doesn't have anything to do with a tweet tomorrow. I remember I was saying, well, after this Mueller thing, maybe Trump will do a tweet. I said this last night. And, get everybody off this story. But no, they're going to get off this story pretty quick themselves. You watch. Or they're going to spin it in such a weird way. But I saw, again, Lawrence O'Donnell was flat-footed tonight. Rachel Maddow had like a tear in her eye with the phony smile, and she was just beside herself. They don't know what to do now. They thought they had it. Well, they don't. They never did. It was bullshit from the beginning. So, take a look at this other story here. What else do I have up here? Durham up there. Of course, this story. Comey's inside man at White House emerges as DOJ Inspector General finalizes Pfizer abuse report. This was from just 2 days ago. And I'm not sure if you guys saw this one, but yeah, this was Comey's inside man at White House emerges as DOJ. Well, here's a new story. Let's see, Washington Examiner. It should be. So yeah, Comey had a spy inside of the White House. Former FBI Director James Comey. Let me pull this off here. Former FBI Director James Comey had an inside man at the White House, feeding the Bureau information about President Trump and his aides in 2017. Now this individual, who after leaving government was hired by BuzzFeed, go figure, to verify parts of British ex-spy Christopher Steele's dossier, oh Jesus, may be tied to an investigation into alleged surveillance abuses by the Department of Justice and the FBI being conducted by Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz. The previously unreported mole in the White House appears in a new report by Real Clear Investigations. Covered Real Clear. Aaron Monte wrote that really good article. It's probably Aaron Monte who wrote this one for Real Clear Investigations. I covered that, I think, on Saturday. I covered that. That explored possible misconduct by Comey for what two U.S. officials described as essentially running a covert operation against the president, even as he was assuring Trump he was not the subject of any investigation. Guy's name is Anthony Ferrante, a longtime FBI official, worked as a cybersecurity advisor on the National Security Council. Officials said Ferrante was working in the White House even while the FBI held him on reserve status. All the while he was sharing information about Trump and his aides back to FBI headquarters. Go figure that one out. Let me see, there's a new story here. Let's see if this one pops up. July 25th, Thursday. So yes, this must be new. Let me pull this down. Senate Judiciary Republican introduced resolution honoring Customs and Border Protection staff. Well, good for them. Senate Judiciary commercials. I like the Washington Examiner, but it's like commercial city on here. It's just terrible. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham and the other. In fact, let me pull this up. Cover up some of these stupid commercials here. There we go. It's like commercial city on that site. It's like, Okay. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham and the other Republican members of the committee introduced a resolution this week commending Customs and Border Protection, or CBP, employees for their service to the country. I'm proud to introduce this resolution to the Border Patrol agents. You're doing an incredible job, Graham, a Republican from South Carolina, said. The system is broken. It's not a crisis. It's a disaster. I guess you like that word from today. Congress has a duty to act. Resolution lauds the men and women of the Customs Border Patrol for their continued honorable service to fixing the immigration crisis at the border. The resolution also urges Congress to pass legislation to decrease the influx of migrants at the southern border. Ben Sass of Nebraska said that border security is national security. These officers are working to stop human traffickers and drug smugglers, he added. I am grateful for their bravery and integrity. Resolution comes as a high number of Americans believe that immigration is the biggest problem facing the country. Recent survey found that 27% think that immigration is the most important problem afflicting the U.S., edging out 23% who cite government and poor leadership. It's the most pressing issue. President Trump has pushed the issue to the forefront of his upcoming 2020 presidential campaign. Boom. Anyways, a live call-in show tonight. And see, what did you guys write? Solex writes, once had a video religion where a man. You go to the gods and ask for a better. Well, that's funny. I wonder. Well, the question I have for you, Solex, is: did it start raining? Did it work? You know, that's the big question. And Irina writes, in my opinion, Mueller is scared of Attorney General Barr. Scared. Attorney General Barr is doing an investigation. It opened up multiple other investigations. Clinton's, Comey, Mueller, and so many others. Down when the truth comes out. Yeah, I hope so. You know, I hope that's what happens. I really do. I mean, the guy Durham's a real dick. I mean, you know, you saw what an attorney who's kind of a dick. I've been called a dick a lot in court, but anyway, can do, you know, and Durham is like a real dick. I mean, he's like an asshole. I mean, he has no friends and nobody likes him. So that's the kind of guy you want in that kind of investigation. He takes no prisoners, makes no friends, doesn't care about anybody. You know, he's that kind of guy. And so Barr picked him because the guy Sessions picked out of Utah was asleep, wasn't doing anything. He's probably like a Romney guy, you know, never Trumper kind of dude. So Barr gets in there and goes, okay, I need a real asshole. And everybody looks around. Oh shit, Durham up in Connecticut. He's an asshole. He goes, okay, get him, and then he puts him on this. Investigate the investigators. Yeah, so that'll be really cool. And let's see here. Okay, that's there already. Okay. All right, and then we'll continue on with continue on with the video. So let's get this over here. Make sure it hasn't frozen up. Yeah, they've been doing this for a while. So Nunes of California, the ranking Republican on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, is suspicious about why Special Counsel Robert Mueller left out references to Mifsud's Western contacts. He sent a letter this month to intelligence chiefs asking for their files. If he is in fact a Russian agent, it would be one of the biggest intelligence scandals for not only the United States, but also for our allies like the Italians and the Brits and others. In other words, right, if this guy supposedly is a Russian asset, well, this guy's been a double agent for 20 years. It's like, how did they miss that one? Well, the truth is he's not a Russian agent. Nobody missed anything. So he goes, but okay. So then he goes on to say, because if Mifsud is a Russian agent, he would know all kinds of our intelligence agents throughout the globe. FBI agents interviewed Papadopoulos in early 2017 as if he owned the keys to the kingdom. How Donald Trump and Moscow colluded, Scarborough wrote. Convivial agents, I can look that up. Convivial agents urged the campaign volunteer to fill them in on the new president's Kremlin capers. They knew there was no Kremlin capers. The Kremlin capers were them. Mifsud worked. Hey, Shonda, how you doing there, young lady? Hey, Darla. But yeah, I mean, look. Okay, here's how it worked. Okay, they send Mifsud over to talk to Papadopoulos. They tell, and his mission is to go to Papadopoulos and tell him about these Russian emails, these Hillary Clinton emails the Russians have, and they want to sell them. They want to shop them around. They want to sell them to the Trump campaign. It's going to help Trump campaign if he gets to the general election. Remember, he hasn't even won the nomination yet. And so then Papadopoulos is like, whatever. Well, anyway, then you have, what's the guy's name in Australia? I'll get to him in a second. Then you have the Australia agent. Well, let's find out. Let's see. Let's see if we can get to the Australian guy. Now let's go back over here. All right, so let's go back to this story real quick, and we'll get to the Australian. So then Papadopoulos meets with what's the guy's name? Damn it. Anyway, he meets with the Australian agent in London, and he says, hey, by the way, say what this Australian guy said was true. Okay, let's pull this headline up here. There we go. So anyway, so Mifsud meets with Papadopoulos March, April 2016. Tell him about, hey, and he's working for the FBI, CIA. His mission, John Brennan gives him a mission, go tell Papadopoulos about Russian emails, about Hillary Clinton emails hacked by the Russians. The next thing you know, Papadopoulos is meeting with this Australian intelligence in London over some drinks. And according to the Australian agent, Papadopoulos tells him about his meeting with Mifsud, where he offered him these Russian hacked, Hillary Clinton emails. So then this guy supposedly is surprised and goes and tells the FBI in July of 2016, hey, this Papadopoulos guy says he's talking to the Russians about Hillary Clinton emails. So then Strzok uses that information to, quote unquote, start a counterintelligence investigation as a predicate. But the whole predicate was false to begin with, because Mifsud, that was a plant. The information was a plant to give to Papadopoulos so he could tell the Australian guy, so the Australian guy could tell the FBI, and then Strzok could pretend like, oh, we're so shocked. Well, no shit, you're shocked. You're not shocked because you're the one who set the whole thing up. And then you use that as a predicate to say, oh, we need to start a counterintelligence investigation. So all the CIA nasty stuff they've been using in the past, well, see, they know they really can't use that stuff. They really can't use a lot of it because it's all CIA foreign intelligence gathering, right? And so when they open up but they use that as a base for their predicate for to get the investigation, and also a base for their information so they know which way to go, what direction to head in. And that's why they head in the direction of Carter Page, et cetera. So that's how the whole thing started. That's how the whole BS started. But anyway, let's continue on with this first story here. Okay, let's see. Mifsud was sent by Brennan to set up Papadopoulos. He was an American asset from Italian intelligence, spying on the campaign of the Obama political opposition. He was doing so in a foreign country to circumvent U.S. law. Explicitly working with John Brennan and the CIA, Mifsud was a man with a long history with the FBI and American intelligence, with James Clapper and Jim Comey. Yet he is the essential, quote-unquote, Russian agent at the heart of the conspiracy theory of the Russia hoax foisted on the American public. Joseph Mifsud's meetings with George Papadopoulos was all on tape, like all operations where an informant is infiltrated against a target. They are wearing a wire. It was recorded. There were government witnesses incognito observing the meeting. There is probably a video. It is absolutely certain that there is a government recording in the verbatim word-for-word record of exactly what Mifsud said to Papadopoulos and what Papadopoulos said back. The coming revelations of foreign governments and their intelligence agencies being used to spy on Barack Obama's political opponents is going to soon go from a trickle to a cascade. It is part and parcel of the systematic illegal use of NSA programs by the Obama White House to spy on prominent Americans as ruled by the presiding judge of the FISA court, Rosemary Collyer. And let's see. The Italian government is increasingly embarrassed at how their agency was used to facilitate Brennan and the Russia hoax. It is probably the tip of the iceberg of the illicit cooperation between the agencies. The longtime professionals in charge were discredited and compromised and summarily dismissed. They were fired. And, here's the deal, too, and Black Conservative Patriot brought this up. Anyway, Italian prime minister is meeting they're like co-Italian prime ministers. Well, one of them was meeting with Mike Pence and also George Pompeo. Mike Pompeo, sorry. Mike Pompeo. Well, he wasn't over here talking about this mess because he just fired those two intelligence chiefs. So he's coming over here to do, not on the phone conversation because he knows our own CIA, NSA is going to listen to it. And of course, those are the guys he's going to come over and talk to him about. So he gets on a plane, flies all the way over here. Well, at the same time, and this was reported as well by Italian press, at the same time, guess who goes to talk to the former prime minister who Barack Obama asked to allow his agents to spy on Trump? Barack Obama. Barack Obama is over there in Italy right now, at least he was yesterday, talking to the former prime minister to do what? Get their story straight. Okay, because Obama, that phone call, that had to be made at that level. The president of the United States calling the prime minister of Italy saying, hey, can my spies talk to your spies so your spies can spy on the opposition party, political candidate, president, then candidate Trump? That's a big question to ask. That's not some low-level question people are going to ask. And again, these are all civil servants. And trust me, I have a lot of dealings with civil servants. All they care about is their pension and their paycheck. Okay, and if you think these guys are going out on their own, starting all this against an opposition party's political candidate, without cover from President Obama saying it was okay to do it, let's do this, you got to be nuts. There's no way, because say he didn't know, and then he finds out, and he gets mad, and then you're fired. You lose your pension. Maybe he even has you prosecuted. Who knows, to make himself look good. Well, there's no way they're going to take a chance like that unless he said it's okay to do it. But for that to happen, he's got to go over and he's got to call the Italian prime minister and say, hey, is it okay for my spies to talk to your spies to spy on President Trump? Because that's a pretty big deal. So anyway, at the same time that the current Italian prime minister is over here talking to Mike Pompeo and Mike Pence, Barack Obama suddenly got a need to go to Italy and talk to the former prime minister who authorized the spying for Barack Obama. And again, they just want to get their story straight, okay? Because, you remember when I talked to you about, yeah, okay. It's a hell of a coincidence, don't you think? Just a week after these two intelligence chiefs are fired, Barack Obama's in Italy talking to the former prime minister. And again, he's not going to pick up the phone and call anybody. No way in hell. He knows what happens with those phone calls. He's listened to those phone calls or email or text. He's read those texts. He's read those emails. He knows there's nothing safe. So he has to get on a plane and fly there, meet with the guy face to face in person under one of those weird anti-hearing shields or something. Well, because prosecuting would be a real pain in the butt and would probably split the country in two. So it's something else. Hey, great dirtbag, how you doing there? Hey, FE, how you doing? Doing good. Let me see if you're coming up. Say 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, yeah, I got John. Okay.
Ding.
Ding, ding.
Okay.
I'm doing the ding, ding. Ding, ding. All right, yeah, I just had to make sure everything else was turned off. Okay, we're good. Yay! So hey, how you doing tonight? How you doing?
Okay, I just had just a quick question, and
Yeah, what do you got?
Um, I had a couple of things, and I couldn't. Sorry about the noise. I couldn't turn. I'm on a mobile device, and I couldn't figure out how to turn off your background noise. Yeah, I
Oh,
heard you were mentioning the point that we were talking about the other day, which is, yeah, these bureaucrats aren't going to do anything unless somebody gives them permission in triplicate, because CYA is what they're all about. We know that.
right.
So, yep. But question. I was bringing it up in the chat, and I don't think you saw it, and nobody in the chat seemed to have the answer to the question I was asking. So was just basically repeating what I was trying to say, but he was kind of reiterating what I already knew. But what the question was is, as you know, as I heard, I was driving around. I didn't get to hear everything. I was working today, and but I heard that Mueller started out repeating that famous we weren't able to exonerate the president BS
Right,
during
and
the
then
actual hearing.
right, he said that during the Judiciary Committee hearing, and then when he went to the Intel Committee hearing, he then corrected himself and then said, "What we said, what he didn't say. Okay, I'm sorry, I was wrong. What I said. What he said was the way it should be described is that we made no determination of whether he was guilty or not of obstruction."
Okay. So
Yeah,
he
yeah,
tried to walk it back a little bit in terminology.
yeah. Well,
Okay.
he walked it back quite a
I
bit
got you.
because what he said was, oh, the only reason why because
Because they were repeating exonerated and
right, because they asked him a leading question saying, so in other words, well, it wasn't just the exoneration they said was the only reason why you didn't prosecute because of the DOJ
presidential
presidential
rules.
thing.
Yeah.
And he goes, yes, that's true.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we didn't exonerate him. And then he realized somebody, well, that guy sitting next to him, which now I understand why he had the guy sitting next to him. It wasn't like because he was going to help him out with testimony. Though the one congressman asked him a question, he goes, well, I'll let this guy answer it. He goes, no, I want you to answer it. It's your name on the report. And but he's mainly there because the guy's got Alzheimer's or something, and he needed somebody sitting next to him to make sure hand him the right paperwork and shit. He was having a hard time looking through his own report. I mean, he had a nice loose leaf binders. It should have been really easy to turn to. It should have been really hard.
Yeah.
He was having a hard time.
Highlighted words and whatnot. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go back and listen to the more of it.
Oh wait, hold it. Hold on. I got to answer this question. Yeah, because you said hi. You said hi, Shonda. Was he? That video that you were watching was from June 18th. Shonda was in the chat room on June 18th. So I said, "Hey, Shonda, how you doing?" And then you said, "Hey, Shonda." Shonda is not on the chat, is she? She was. I was just referencing the chat from June 18th.
Oh, I don't know. I was using a mobile device, so I can only see part of what's going on, and it's very difficult for me to type.
Right. No, you just heard me. You heard me say hi.
I just responded to what you said.
Right. Yeah. Shonda is not on this chat.
So she'll see it later. She'll see it later.
Yeah, she was on the chat on June 18th. Yeah, that was a video from June 18th. The reason why I replayed it, what I did was today I had not had previously recorded that, and you can't download like a YouTube video, so I played it and recorded it on my hard drive, and that's what I'm using it to shoot over to watch today. But I took out the chat, but I enlarged it to take out the chat. So it wouldn't be confusing, like seeing the chat from June 18th and seeing the chat from today.
Well, now you're confusing me even more, Carl. I mean, I'm on Benadryl here, and it's you're jumping streams, and I'm falling asleep on you.
You're like, oh Jesus, were you sick again? What's wrong?
What are you doing? What's happening here?
Oh, you should
no allergies. Just I was out, getting into dusty things and. People don't clean, behind their freaking computers and stuff, Carl.
Yeah.
They don't.
They're a bunch of pigs. Bunch of pigs.
Like, perhaps it's overheating because there's a 1-inch layer of dust there. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, so I'm allergic to all that crap, and so I had to go home, take a Benadryl, and knock myself out. So anyway, so yeah, that was my question is, did they address his since he was using that word again, because what I did catch when I was driving was the takeaway from the little snippets from various Dem talking heads today was, obstruction. We're going to go after him for obstruction. He wasn't exonerated for obstruction. Mueller said so, and that's what I was hearing. So that was their takeaway, it seemed. And I was wondering, did it get addressed directly to his face at some point? Because as I said, I didn't hear the whole thing. So just wondering.
Mueller actually volunteered it. He volunteered. He goes in response to a question from Congressman Lieu earlier, and so he brought it up at the next committee hearing, in the next Intel instead of Judiciary. He brought it up there. He blurted that out himself. Because I guess somebody said, "Whoa, man, but you might want to clear this up." Maybe Barr even called over to talk to that kid and said, "Hey, make sure he clears that shit up, okay?" Because initially, it's funny when that story first hit, a couple of liberal outlets quick said, "Oh, there it is. There's a big story," and then Mueller came back and cleaned it up, and then even Vox wrote, "It wasn't as big as you thought it was." Even Vox wrote that. It wasn't that big.
I was hearing clips, but I don't know when those clips were taken and, what they were responding to. But the way that they made it sound was that he had said it at the beginning of this testimony. And I was wondering, like you said, there are a lot of those guys are attorneys. If one of them maybe said, hey now, and just threw it up in his face. So I was just wondering if that actually occurred. So you're saying it was addressed before they got to the main hearing. It was addressed in the subcommittee hearing.
No, it was addressed in the second hearing. There was two. He had appeared in front of two committees today. The morning one was Judiciary Committee. The afternoon hearing was in front of the Intel Committee. That's Nadler had the first.
Okay.
Right. Nadler was the first one. He's chairman of the first Judiciary. Adam Schiff is chairman of the House Intel Committee.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. They both wanted him.
I just didn't see how a room full of attorneys would let him get away with using that language and, letting it get as far as it got. And especially since, like I said, I kept hearing clips of Democrats saying, "Oh, yeah, this is the smoking gun," so to speak. And we're going to impeach. I mean, they haven't. It seems that they're taking away from it a completely, as usual, of course, but a completely different thing than what I was hearing, which is that it was, kind of an embarrassment the way that, as you were saying, Mueller was sounding. And I did listen to some of the other clips aside from what you played, but he kept saying he didn't know, or he couldn't speak to that, or they didn't have that information. And then they'd say, "Well, it's right here in your report. Would you like me to read it to you?" And it was like
embarrassing.
The takeaway, but yes, embarrassing. So that's the takeaway that it seems that people got, but the Democrat talking heads seem to get a completely different takeaway from that. So not that that's unusual as far as partisan, but I was just wondering, did they have anything to hold on to, that they could say they could take away something else from it? I mean, and that was the only thing I actually heard, which was obstruction.
Yeah, well, they can spin that, "Hey, information man, how you doing down there?" And it's good seeing you there. And who else? Oh, Karen's back. Hey, Karen. Getting late. I have to go to bed. Have a good night, everyone. All right, Karen. Have a great night. Get some sleep. Good
night, Karen. That I saw.
Oh, you saw that right. It's getting late. Yeah. But information man says interesting. Interesting. But no, yeah. I mean, it's they can spin this all they want, but I mean, all the reaction at the time, like Ari Melber, Brian Williams, Nicole Wallace. The guy Lawrence Tribe on CNN, the guy on ABC, I can't remember his name, was like, "This is terrible. They kept the word disaster was used more than 5 times. I mean, it was almost, it was a lot. I mean, everybody was using the word disaster. Even Lawrence Tribe, who hates Trump with a passion, even though this was a disaster for the Democrats. So I mean, they can spin this all they want. I don't know where they go from here. Hopefully they say, okay, well, let's get. They can't work with the president because you can't get any victories before 2020. You can't get anything done. So I don't know. The greasy wheels could have to get the.
Except they got the border, some of the border wall, some of the border expense funding, some of the ICE expense funding, I guess I should say, the immigration funding.
Yeah, the $5 billion.
Because none of that's going to any border wall.
Right.
Yeah. So at least they got that done. But yeah. That's another disaster. They shouldn't call that a crisis anymore. They should call that a disaster. The disaster at the border, that reached that stage, although it has slowed down since Mexico started cooperating. But it's still well past where it should be. So that's a disaster, too, as long as we're talking disasters.
Oh, yeah, that is a disaster.
Okay.
I covered last night. I'm not sure if you watched the replay, but the funny story about the driver's license, that all these governors want to make sure illegal aliens can have driver's license. Well, somebody forgot to tell them that for like the last, since I think what year was it they passed the law? It was either 94 or 2004. I can't remember now. But they passed a law that allows federal law enforcement to have access to state driver's license databases, including ICE.
Oh.
So when you're getting all these illegals are getting these driver's licenses, now ICE has access to their names, addresses, and everything. And so the governors are now scrambling like, oh shit, oh what did we do? Oh no, and they're kind of stuck with it and then some idiot, some Democrat, I can't remember who it was. It might have been de Blasio or somebody said, oh well, there's no law that allows them to do that. And then somebody had to point out, well, yeah, there's actually a 2006 law that allows them to do that. Let me see if I can find let me see if I got the article up real quick here.
What's wrong with these people, Carl? Maybe this is the Benadryl talking, but to be honest, because, I'm a lightweight, can only take one at a time. So, point being, why are they so determined to protect illegality? At the highest echelons, people who are sworn to uphold the Constitution and defend it and this nation.
I have no idea.
They are bound and determined to thwart our laws and make a mockery of them. And I don't understand that mentality.
Yeah, okay,
What is that?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Am I being hyperbolic here? Because that's how I see it. And
no, you're not. You're not being hyperbolic.
This is no small thing that they're doing. This is not just, this is a law from 1812. No, let's pick another year. This is a law from 1872 about how many yards of fabric a woman has to have on her bustle, and we just don't need to enforce that law anymore. It's not a law like that. What's the word for those laws? You're an attorney. What are those laws called? Those ones that are like outdated, but nobody bothered to get rid of them off the books?
Old laws that are outdated. Old laws that are outdated that nobody bothers to get rid of off the books.
There's a phrase for that, or a word for that. I can't remember what it is. Yeah, it's a funny thing. You can look it up online. All the weird old laws that are still in the books, like you can't put an ice cream cone in your back pocket.
Oh, no kidding.
You can't put an ice cream cone in your back pocket in certain cities. How many yards of fabric a woman has to wear in her dress. These are real laws that that people are like digging through and finding, but nobody had bothered to take off the books. So
no shit. Well, anyway,
we're probably all breaking laws every day and don't even know it.
Well, here's a story from July 23rd from immigrationreform.com. Media is heading in the wrong direction on driver's license for illegal aliens. This is by David Jaroslav. So let's see what he says. On July 7th, the Washington Post broke what quickly became a bombshell story. Over at least the past 5 years, federal law enforcement personnel from both the FBI and Immigration Customs Enforcement, ICE, have turned state driver's licenses databases into a facial recognition gold mine, even the bedrock of an unprecedented surveillance infrastructure. The Post expressed horror at the notion that federal law enforcement agencies will use state driver's license databases. DMV records, according to the Post, are different from fingerprints, DNA, and other biometric data taken from criminal suspects because most drivers have never been charged with a crime. They further noted that neither Congress, this is what they said, they further noted the Washington Post, mind you, Jeff Bezos' paper. Why would he let this be written? He's a smart guy. Anyway, they further noted that neither Congress nor state legislators have authorized the development of such a system. And then this author goes on to write, it may come as something of a surprise to the Post that, one, driving is a privilege, not a right, and two, Congress actually has created exactly such a system in the Driver's Privacy Protection Act, the DPPA, of 1994, which specifically authorizes disclosure of driver's license information for use by any government agency, including any court or law enforcement agency, in carrying out its functions. The DPPA even survived a constitutional challenge that went all the way to the Supreme Court. Nonetheless, the story was like a dam breaking as it released significant backlash against using the information contained in the driver's license databases. Congressman Elijah Cummings of Maryland said the law enforcement searches of driving records were often done in the shadows with no consent. Well, yeah, you're allowed to access the database.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
In the shadows with no consent.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're sitting in offices with lights. I'm assuming they don't have like the lights turned off. And then he goes, not to be rhetorically outdone, of course, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York decried the searches as a part of a sinister, here we go, global rise in authoritarianism and fascism. Several states, notably Illinois, Utah, Vermont, Washington, rushed to assure people that they were now restricting or preventing ICE from accessing their records. New York, the director of New York Immigrant Coalition, condemned Governor Andrew Cuomo of scaring hardworking immigrants into staying in the shadows by continuing to evoke the ICE boogeyman.
Hardworking illegals. Illegals. Why can't they say the word? It's illegal. Oh, my God, I'm getting mad now.
It's illegal. It's illegal. That's
hardworking immigrants. How do they know, A, they're hardworking, and B, they are illegals? You know, they're not immigrants. Immigration, doesn't the word immigrant even have a legal definition as far as that goes?
Well, yeah, I mean, immigrant.
So you can't
you really can't say legal immigrant. I mean, immigrant is immigrant. You really can't really say illegal immigrant. It's really, I mean, in the code, the federal code section, it refers to
illegal alien.
Illegal alien. That's the federal code. That's the law. Yeah. That's what the word is used. Illegal alien, because you really can't be.
Did you address that they're trying to change that code to eliminate the word alien because it's offensive?
To aliens?
Have you heard that one?
You mean like the guys from space got pissed off?
Yeah, they're trying to eliminate. Yeah, they're trying at some level, somebody in the House was trying to eliminate that word from the code somehow. So they're working on that too.
Good luck on getting that passed through the Senate. See, that's what I'm saying. They're wasting the time doing stupid shit. It's not going to pass. I mean, look, Pelosi needs to gather her troops and figure out what she can do. Now, look, if they want to keep going down this road of this nonsense, fine, let them do it. The American people are getting tired of it. Independent voters are getting really tired of it. Swing voters are getting very tired of it. I mean, fine. The base is already tired of it. Well, actually, the base is like pissed, which is good. Because, you know, the Democrats were pissed in 2018, and hopefully we get pissed in 2020 and we come out to vote. So, I mean, yeah. You know, but I mean, they want to keep...
we are mostly a country of moderates. I mean, I'd say moderates outweigh the extreme right and the extreme left, for sure. And if you ask the average American, I would say at least 3 out of 4 are against completely open borders, which is what the Dems have gone all in for, as they say in poker. They're all in for open borders.
Oh, they're totally all in
for open borders. Free stuff are illegal.
Yeah. Totally.
So my question is, why do people keep voting Democrat when they don't agree with the policies? Because I hear people like that guy, Carl, that he said he was of Cuban descent, and he got falsely accused by that state representative
in Georgia.
Something
in Atlanta, yeah, Cobb
in
County.
Georgia,
yeah,
and he's like, I'm a Democrat. I've always been a Democrat, and I vote Democrat. Well, he got fired at by the gun that the Democrats have been using the last couple of years. Full on, got both barrels of their SJW lies, their race baiting, their false accusations against people who they assume to be the deplorables, and because he looked white to her, she thought she could do that to him, and this is what he got exposed to. But do you think that's going to change him?
No.
Even though he saw firsthand the false accusations?
No.
So that's what I don't get.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
But
I mean,
even so, the people that are against open borders are still voting for it. So how do you win in a situation like this? Because you vote for the Democrats, you're voting for open borders. You just are nowadays. That's what they've said. That's what their platform is now.
Right, and you can't have.
Well, it will be, I assume. You know,
you can't raise the minimum wage and have open borders. You can't do it. It can't happen.
Right. Well, right. Well, yes. Common sense says. I mean, but they're willing to destroy our country over doing crap like that. Obviously.
Right.
Because I've never met a communist that wasn't willing to destroy their own country. So
well,
that's
yeah.
kind of
I
what
mean,
they do.
well, yeah. No, in their opinion, they got to like tear it down to the ground, like
Sure.
to the foundation. If you will,
Yeah.
tear down all the studs in the
That
house
was
before you can
written
rebuild it.
into that was Obamacare. That was he admitted it, and the people that created it admitted he didn't create it, but the people that willed it into being admitted, hey, this is about destroying the system that exists and making people clamor for single payer. Obamacare was meant to fail. It was also meant to cause pain. And that's what the, leftists, that's one of the tactics, obviously, cause pain so that people want to be lorded over, ruled over, which takes me back to Bernie Sanders when I was calling him. He was always a grifter, and he still is one. And you were like, oh, how is he still? And I think you were talking about his belief in socialism, meaning therefore he's not being dishonest. But I was explaining that's his whole basis for being a socialism is from the point of view of an elite. So he's the elite, where
right,
socialism for you, I'm going to be the ruling class. So that's why he's still he's the scam artist. He's still a scam artist, and he always has been.
Right. Okay. Now. Okay.
So,
now
instead of surfing on sofas, he's surfing. Mm-hmm.
Now I see your point.
Sorry?
In other words, like he says, yes, I'm in favor of socialism, but I want to be part of the dictatorship of the proletariat. I'm going to be one of the top guys. I'm going to be part of the central committee to lead you to the promised land. But the rest of you all have to work and slob and live in shitty places. I get to, have a nice big daca and, a nice car because, I'm running things, so I have to be comfortable so my brain can work really good. Okay, now I understand your point.
As demonstrated by not only his lifestyle, but how he's handling his own employees as, the small microcosm of his policies that he could enact in his own world where he still has power, which is his campaign staff. He's not able to provide the backbone necessary to walk the walk that he talks in that world either. But, it's just, he's a scam artist, though, just saying. But I don't know how I got off on that subject. Oh, I know how. I took a Benadryl.
You took a Benadryl.
So I better let you go before this goes completely off the rail.
Okay, young lady. Well, God, I hope you feel better.
Yeah, nice mug.
You like
that,
huh?
Mug.
Yeah, actually, first I said Trump got it. Then I'm like,
it's a great
mug.
Shit.
Then I'm like, shit, if my secretary's watching this, she'd be like, no, I got you that for your birthday. But yeah, everybody knows.
Hey, did you see Mark Dice's limited edition metallic Trump profile T-shirt? It's beautiful.
I did, but I bought one of his shirts, and then when I got it, he's probably not watching, but the T-shirt I just bought one like 2 weeks ago. It's made in the Dominican Republic.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I figured it might have some kind of like poison on it.
Well, the Dominican Republic's better than Haiti.
Well, no, what I'm saying, no, because all those American tourists are getting killed down there. So I figured, wait a second, how do I know somebody didn't spread some of that alcohol on this shirt?
True.
How do I know one of those guys wasn't drinking the alcohol while in the factory line, and he's immune to it because he's from there, and then he had it on his hands, he got it on the T-shirt, then I put the T-shirt on, and then I die. And everybody goes, gee, how'd you die? And I'm there wearing my Mark Dice T-shirt, and I'm dead. And I'm like, oh no. I think I bought.
It sounds completely plausible, Carl. It's completely plausible. You never can be too careful or too paranoid.
It's when you get complacent. That's when you get complacent. Is when bad shit happens. Wait, remember the line?
And then somebody has to crawl around underneath your computer and do crap. It's very annoying. People should do more to prevent these things.
Exactly. And then people like you have to crawl around under the computers and clean shit up. Exactly.
Just saying. It's a lot easier to kill the first cockroach than an entire infestation. So, I'm just saying. So, anyway, I appreciate your time. I like your awesome mug. Too bad about the shirt being poisonous and that your imminent death is upon us because I'm going to miss you, Carl.
No, I never put it on. My staff.
Oh, okay.
Both
you touched it.
You know what? I did, but I washed my hands.
You had your staff open it? You're going to kill your staff?
No. It wasn't like I haven't taste my food or anything. No, both my staff said, "Oh, don't put that on." don't put that on. I'm like, oh. So I threw it in the trunk, and it's been sitting there ever since. But at least I
Well,
didn't send it.
we have this magical box in America. It's called a washing machine, and
Well,
it really does
yeah,
take care
I
of most
know.
problems.
Yeah, probably could do that.
And also, I am pro third world countries sweatshops because keeping people employed in third world countries is how we prevent border crises.
Well, it's funny.
That's
There's truth in your words. It's like the whole point of propping up these countries down south. And I covered this story. I think I covered it last night. The El Salvadorian president, like how he covered Trump's ass on those two El Salvadorians that died in the Rio Grande. He came out and he sent a tweet. He sent a tweet out saying, "Hey, yeah, we can blame any other country in the world we want, but where were those people fleeing from? Because they're fleeing from our country. It's our fault that they're dead." And so, because this guy just got elected on anti-corruption, it's like 37. It's like Pete Buttigieg's age, right? But he's smart, right? Because Guatemala just fucked Trump, right? Well, Trump's looking at, for friends, and this guy's like, hey, man, Estados Unidos got a shitload of money, and if I put this tweet out there to cover Trump's ass on this, so Trump retweeted his tweet, and then sent him a tweet saying, hey, man, anything you need. Now check this out. Pompeo was down there on a Latin American tour. Okay, now check. This is great. The last country he stopped at after this tweet little thing was El Salvador. But it gets better than that. I don't think El Salvador was on the list because on the trip he went from Ecuador to Mexico City and then back down to El Salvador. See what I'm saying? So
okay,
so
gotcha.
they added that one. He added that one in after Trump said, "Yeah, go talk to this guy. This guy's cool, and tell him we can help him out with some money or some shit." And this guy's like, "Hey, he knows what to do. I mean, shit."
Well, we're already giving them money and some shit.
Well, yeah, but
we read that article about someone.
Yeah, but Trump was cutting off the aid to these foreign countries because of the immigration.
I don't know if that happened. I know that it was brought up, but I don't know if it actually happened.
No.
I didn't follow up.
Right.
Yeah.
No, he never did it, but he threatened it. So this guy's like, well, fuck, I'll make friends with President Trump, and then I'll make sure that my country's taken care of, and Guatemala can be a dick. Good for them. I get their money, and have a nice day. So it was really smart of this kid. This young kid is really smart of him. If the Democrats had half a brain, they'd be like this kid talking to Trump. Just build up his ego. It's like, yeah, what do you need? Somebody said, yeah, Pompeo went down and met with him, and it was really cool. So. Yeah, so that should work out good. But anyway, hey, I'll let you go. I know you're not feeling good and everything. So
okay.
I hope you feel better.
I'm just bending up. You got to read your chat because some of your chatters have put in some of those funny old laws and they're really funny in your chat.
Oh, I'll check that out later because I can't go back far enough.
And then the next time you decide to do your video voodoo magic, you're gonna have to warn me so that I can be aware, because especially on a night like this. You have a responsibility to your audience, Carl.
Will do. No problem. Well, although if you had read the description page, you would have seen testimony in our June 18th.
I have double vision at the moment.
And it says right in the description page, in our June 18th, 2019 Carl's Opinion Show in depth. And not to mention, I'm wearing 2 different shirts. So there you go.
I was listening. I wasn't watching.
Gotcha. All right, young lady.
Okay.
Have a good one.
Good night.
All right, bye-bye. And that was the great Effie Loves America, formerly known as Effie Real. And, everybody got boo-boo tonight. And so Rena had a boo-boo, and Effie's got a boo-boo. It's like boo-boo city, man. It's like boo-boo city. So, yeah, stay healthy. Stay healthy. And so let's see here. Where were we at? Well, we pretty much covered the story on Mifsud and stuff. So I've been on for a little over 2 hours, so probably going to wrap up the live stream for tonight. And let's make sure we're all good to go here. So, yeah, probably wrap up the live stream for tonight. And I want to thank everybody who's been in the chat. I'll go back later after this process is up. And probably tomorrow morning, look at the chat room and see some of the crazy laws and stuff in there. It'd be kind of funny to listen to watch and stuff. So anyway, for everybody in the chat, thank you so much. To Effie Loves America, thanks for the great phone call and conversation as usual. And to all those who will be viewing us later, thank you so much. And for Carl's Opinion, this is Carl. Have a great night, everyone. Bye-bye.